Always express it. Serious.
Let's not. Okay, yeah, I'll send it to you again. Okay, bye. How was that? Yes, take two. What were you? Yes, please.
What was that?
Did you real?
The smuggling that's happening right now.
Yeah. We have. The final platter.
A lot with us on how she turns it on. Thank you. Appreciate it. You're welcome. Guess they'd ever come clean? No, it says it still doesn't seem real.
I guess they weren't. The
Link to the next meeting. I was like, no, I just didn't want me to check. You down there? I just might. Maybe.
Oh, they used to.
We didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I knew.
We had an ambulance.
That was your choice, like you, I'm waiting to hear why or when about. or-
Why?
So,
I was listening to it go up and I'm like, what?
great, thanks for that.
No, how are you? You should already fill in for me because that's funny.
Well, now I am in the same boat, and I wasn't in that boat, I was completely naive to the fact before you brought it up, and now I have to say.
All right.
Was everything about it? How are you?
Another really day to day out.
Why is it? Maybe next time.
No, they say on it.
I mean,
Somebody got. That's why nothing you did, but these two are in there. They don't even- That might have been it. Yeah, thanks. That's it. Are you just- just on that road? No. Don't get into it now.
I won't.
Till after.
I won't.
I'm sure it was a joke.
What's up? What you saying?
Somebody died. That's an engineer.
Now, you know what they need to give credit for going away with it?
A bunch of dust.
Bottle of dust.
I've got gallons of.
You can just give them a nice little jar.
He doesn't 5 gallon anymore.
It's such a large packet, it's freezing my eye.
Yeah.
How you doing?
I get down to the plans.
I gotta say.
He was just saying that he's.
What did you got here? Looks like you're gonna take up most of the meeting tonight. Oh.
I was waving at you.
Plus I have this copy of the general fund.
You?
Both of you. No, no. I'm up. All right, good for you. Thank you.
No, you're like.
I have about 8,000 things to talk about here. I put my water by you. Can I have it, please?
The rest of your questions?
I didn't have.
Thank you. Did you get it?
Are we doing? Are we waiting for?
I know, I don't know why. So. At least if you heard me.
I mean, it could be either.
It really was my way to. No. It was my trick.
I know. I don't know if they're.
Yeah.
Wow. No. Ow. I decided.
Okay, I have.
Lisa. Okay, we'd like to begin tonight. Today is Tuesday, December the 12th, 2023. We're going to begin this evening with our LBA meeting. We have a few items on the agenda there that we need to take care of. We'll begin with that meeting first. We need to have an approval of the October 10th, 2023 minutes.
Chairman, I move to approve the October 10, 2023 minutes.
A second. Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have one item on here for public hearing for local building authority fiscal year 2024 budget. We need a motion to open this public hearing.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, public hearing is open. If you've got any comments you'd like to make on this, we invite you up to the microphone. Seeing there are no public comments, we'll ask for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, next item on the agenda is LBA Resolution 23-04, adopting the LBA fiscal year 2024 budget. Any discussion on that? Or questions anyone may have? If not, then we'll ask for a motion on this.
Chairman, I'll move to approve the LBA Resolution 23-04, adopting the LBA fiscal year 2024 budget.
Second that. Okay, we have a motion and a second. We'll begin with a roll call vote from Councilman Halverson.
Aye.
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 Aye. I guess it's board member, not councilman.
And the mayor or chairman.
And I do too. Aye. I do every time. Okay, we'll ask for a motion to adjourn this board meeting and convey into city council.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Welcome to city council, everyone. We'll begin with pledge of allegiance from Councilman Dills, and then we'll have a prayer by Councilwoman Petty.
Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father in heaven, we are so grateful for this opportunity we have to come together as a community to express concerns and give solutions and to any issues that are facing our city. We're so grateful for our firefighters, for our police, and for our military, and ask a blessing upon them. They will continue to watch over us, and please bless their families as well. We ask that we'll be able to stay safe in our beautiful valley and that we'll be able to discuss things calmly and come to consensus for what's best for our community. We love you and say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you. We'll begin with public comments. If you have a comment, we'd advise you to come up to the microphone. We'll allow you 3 minutes to talk. We'd like you to state your name and the city from which you come from and address the entire council, and the council will not remark. So, oh, we've already got
You do.
our
Yeah,
first comment.
My time started. My name is Brent Paul. I live here in South Weaver. I have for 76.5 years. And my issue tonight again is pollution. Just as background, you probably know that Hill Air Force Base, EPA and the state of Utah worked together in 1991 to create a federal facilities agreement, how they were going to expedite the resolution of the pollution around Hill Air Force Base, especially in South Weaver and Optimal Unit 1. That was in 1991. 25 years later, or in 1998, they came up with the idea that monitored natural attenuation was a way to resolve this. And it was going to resolve it by 2010. 2010 rolled around and it wasn't resolved. So in 2015, they put out a statement to say, oh, we just misjudged the time for this expeditious resolution. Now we expect it'll be resolved at some uncertain time in the 2040s. In the 2040s. The plan was cheap, passive, ineffective. We send in 96 quarterly reports over 24 years, each one telling them that it would never work. And it never worked exactly like we told them and our technical advisor told them. Still, 2040s. As a result, the pollution's still there. We're still on the national priority list as one of the most eminently hazardous to human health in the entire country. And we're far from deletion. What has the city done? Not much better. In fact, in some ways worse. You filled up the entire West End with subdivisions, polluted subdivisions. Every person that lives there is a potential recipient of the pollution. Every owner and former owner of a lot there is a potential responsible party, just like me, who has responsibilities related to that pollution. And they encourage suing each other. It's crazy. But that's how it is. You're a potential responsible party. Do the people that you've created these for, do they know that? Do they know that? This is where our family comes in. We've been talking to attorneys, and like I said, you know, we put a lot of work into it. But they says, you've got to do everything you can. My family they're talking to. Mom gave me this assignment 48 years ago. So it's my job to do as much as I can for the family. We have to warn everybody we can find to say, this is how bad it is. It's bad here.
Brent, your 3 minutes are up.
Thanks a lot for that. If you guys want to debate any of this stuff, give me a call. The last thing I need to say before I go is that I don't think this has been enough. So we're going to use letters to the editor and go more public and put the blame on the city for creating these subdivisions that are polluted. You need to know that. You are responsible. Thanks for the time.
Thank you, Brent.
Oh, my name is Lynn Wood, and I'm from Ogden at morbidly obese bureaucracy to your north. Now, I am the executor of the Ray Estate, and I'm here to talk about River Woods 1 and 2, and phase 1 and phase 2. The Rays were longtime residents here, and they loved it here. And they were very good neighbors. And I think being good neighbors is important. When the city was looking for some ground, I knew the LaRocca people. I sent them an email and I told them this would be a good opportunity and that the city would be good neighbors for us and for them. I don't know that I influenced that in any way, but I know shortly after that, I got a call from your city attorney telling me that UDOT was jerking you around, and could we donate part of our ground to make this public work facility a reality? And I said, sure, that's what good neighbors do. And so I actually stopped what I was doing, got my signature notarized, hand delivered the documents here in time for your meeting. And so now I stand before you asking to, seeking your favorable approval of our development. And we have to have both phase 1 and phase 2. Nielsen Homes has informed us that if we don't have the whole thing, then it's dead. It's economically unfeasible. And that would be a shame, because I think it's a wonderful development. I think there's going to be a great neighborhood, and there will be big lots, big expensive homes, lots of open spaces. And we look forward to continuing to be your good neighbors and hope that you will rule favorably for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you.
Joel has the paper. You're passing it. I know you are. Paul Sturm, South Weaver City. These are my comments to the City Council on the 12th December 23 meeting. Public comments on agenda, action item number 12, packet page 105 of 449. The agenda item is the ordinance 2309, Title 10, Chapter 7, Conditional Use Amendment. Recommendation from the Planning Commission recommended approval of the Title 10, Chapter 7, Conditional Use Permit Amendment with the adjustment, and that's important, the adjustment, the Planning Commission be the approval body for residential and commercial conditional use permits. The Planning Commission met in a pre-meeting on 9 November 23 for discussion topics to be considered during the regular Planning Commission meeting regarding the rewrite of Title 10. One of the topics discussed was the approval of conditional use permits. During the pre-meeting, it was decided that the Planning Commission would be the approval authority for residential conditional use permits. The topic of approval authority for commercial conditional use permits was briefly discussed, but did not appear to have a final consensus at that time. When the topic of approval authority for conditional use permits was addressed and voted upon by the Planning Commission during the regular meeting of 9 November, suddenly the approval authority for conditional use permits for commercial was directed to be with the Planning Commission. Whereas I believe that this had not been decided during the pre-meeting. My comment on this is, I believe that with the importance of developing commercial within South Weaver City, the City Council should be the final approval authority for the city for commercial conditional use permits. The City Council has the overall understanding of the city's goals and objectives, such as what happened with General RV. I also believe that the Planning Commission should still perform the initial review for commercial conditional use permits, as they presently do, to keep them informed and then provide their recommendation to the City Council for its final approval. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay, our next item on the agenda is we've got a few presentations. So we'd like to begin with recognition. We've got two of our staff members that are going to be leaving us shortly. Trevor Cahoon will be leaving us next week, and Mark McCray will be leaving us. He is retiring, and we'll on the first part of January. So this will be their last meeting. We want them both to know how much we appreciate them for all that they've done for the city. Our city is definitely in better position than it was before both of you came. We appreciate very much what you've done for the city and wish you the best in your endeavors, wherever they may take you. And good luck going west, Trevor. they're both great and they really did help this city out immensely. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, two more recognitions that we'd like to bring to your attention tonight is we've got two council people that are leaving. Their term is up and this will be their last city council at the end of their term. And both of them have done an exceptionally well job in serving this community and our city. I can't say enough about either one of them for the job that they've done. They've just they've just been the best. I can't find words to express what they truly have been for this city. Both of them have taken their committees that they've worked on and done an exceptional job. Haley with PR and with code committee. We've had so many changes in our code committee and we were talking about it in there today. And a lot of it is because of what Haley put forth there. And Quinn, with he's been exceptionally well with our admin and finance committee and over the top on the handling of the gravel pits. And really, it's gone the extra mile in filling that assignment with, I don't think people realize the time and effort that that Quinn put into that. And so before I start crying worse than I am, I'm going to present these plaques. So thank you so much. Thank you. Maybe this one is yours. And I believe that Trevor has got something else for both of you as well.
Thank you very much.
Oh, and I mean, whoa.
You have to eat a whole pie for this one.
Thank you very much.
Well, you're gonna need help getting all that out to your car. We'd like a picture, okay? Put your plaques up.
Where do you want it?
Where's that fancy lens? Is it staying here? Is it staying here or is it going with?
It's staying here. I was gonna give you a wrong camera here too, on Saturday.
Thank you.
Okay, I think I can handle the rest of this meeting now. So our next presentation that we have is Davis County Sheriff's Quarterly Report. So Sergeant Pope, would you like to come on forward and give us your report?
All right. Absolutely. See if we can get that pulled up there. It's been 4 years, maybe? You've been.
Four
four
fantastic years.
fantastic years.
I've really enjoyed these meetings with you.
Right, yeah, it's been. great.
Stories.
I did not know that this was the last one until now, so. We'll get used to the next one though. Okay. Okay, all right, so this quarter is gonna be between September 11th and December 5th. We've got a few more days that since the 5th that have happened, but for her to be able to put together all of the statistics and everything. We miss a couple days on there, so. Citation types, these are the total citations that we've had this time. It's 8 other citations, which are non-moving or basically kind of criminal in effect. If someone has marijuana, possession of marijuana, release them on citation, it would fall under that. Moving violations are 24, non-moving violations are 13. Parking violations, that one, I don't know if some got missed. I have written some personally within that time period, so I don't know if it just, sometimes the system, we got a whole new computer system that just upgraded today. So I don't know if the system just didn't count that, but I have written several on my own. Written warning, there's 7 and 20 speeding tickets. Hours in the city, we have 948. 300, or actually there's 700 calls altogether. 300 of those are dispatch calls and 410 are on view, which means our deputies are actually initiating that call. And then before we get to her section on giving more statistics, I was just made aware that apparently the Sasquatch has been stolen, and I have a address where he is located right now. So hopefully I can go get that taken care of tonight. We'll see if we can get him back.
You earned your day.
Right. So also that one's going to be highlighted, you know. So secondly, we've been working with Kim Gwill on working on the park and ride. I think everyone has noticed that there's been a lot of commercial vehicles coming in and out, and so we're trying to work with her and what violations we can actually cite and clear out some of that traffic that's going on through there right now. Our office is right in the middle of a 12 acts of kindness right now. One of those acts of kindness was on Monday. We came over and bought 3 tanks of gas for people at the Maverick. So we did that on Monday. We have 2 more that we're going to be doing in the next week, but they're surprises, so I can't release what those are going to be. But we are being trying to be fairly active throughout the city with the things that we're doing. We also have we will be giving deputies gift cards, so we can pull people over for either a violation, or maybe we can stop with someone on the side of the road who we noticed was doing something good and give them a gift card, and you know, for Christmas. So we are working on that, but I'm trying to think if there's any other areas that we've been working on lately. Cottonwood Drive has had some parking issues. We've impounded a few trailers off of there. We try to walk in and talk with the city as often as I can to find out where their problem areas are. And as far as last time, we did talk about some type of crossing thing over at Highmark Charter. I think it was almost a week later, I sent Angie a message. They have a bunch of those crosswalks that actually stop traffic when you push the button. And I think that would work really well, but I think that's probably for the Public Safety Committee to kind of go down that road and see if that works or not. But I've seen it in a lot of other places that have a lot less traffic than we do here. So that seems like a good solution to me.
I did want to add before any questions are asked. My name is Elizabeth. Those statistics are not completely accurate. As you can see, as I'm sure you've noticed, those citations are down drastically from the last quarter that we've had. And because of a few reasons, essentially our records management system merged with the rest of the county. And so that's caused about as hard of a time getting stats as you could imagine. We are working on all of those. That should not be an issue going forward, but we still are working on the kinks. And so those numbers are not completely accurate. I didn't want to show up empty-handed, but I do want to note the fact that those will continue to be fixed as we move forward.
Yeah, for a better service to the entire county law enforcement has gotten on the same server for our dispatch and for everything, where it was not before. We had 3 and 4 different dispatch centers, 3 and 4 different computer servers and things like that. So we actually have combined those all, and that happened last month. And so since then, the stats they only show like 1 month of stats. So going back into the old system is a nightmare. So that's kind of why you're seeing that.
Well, and we can access the old records management system, but as far as the tools that I use to extract from the old records management system are no longer connected. There's been a couple of variance with that. So we're working on that. I will happily, see after this patch that happened today, see if we can get more accurate data. And if that's the case, I will happily update that, that slideshow, we get that sent over to you guys, so that way you guys have.
Can't you just throw it in a big spreadsheet?
You know what?
We like the picture.
I like the picture.
So we appreciate your patience for this kind of transition.
Rewrite a query. I mean, it's.
Nope, I don't have any.
No.
All right, so my name is Elizabeth Pinto. I'm the investigative analyst for the sheriff's office. Today I'll be presenting to you the Q3 report for investigations. So that will cover from September 11th again to December 5th of this year. So in this graph, red is person crimes, blue is property crimes, yellow is crime against society, and green is death investigation. And we can see that person crimes is a little bit over 50%. I think it's actually covering it, but I believe we had 25 new cases this last quarter. 28, thank you. 23 cases this last quarter. And on this next slide, we'll go into a little bit more in depth. So we had 3 cases of sextortion, 4 cases of child abuse, 2 cases of protective order violations, 2 cases of harassments and threats, and then 2 sex offenses. Those were our most prominent person crimes. And then for property crimes, forgery and fraud, and criminal mischief.
And stolen Sasquatches.
And stolen Sasquatches. Sorry, that one. So, and I did want to kind of do an overview of everything else that goes on in the sheriff's office and everything else that we provide, because, we go over patrol and investigations, and it's a major part of what's contributed, but there certainly are different aspects, and so I wanted to review those. Within the last quarter, our victims advocates have served 21 victims, providing a total of 216 services. Grammar requests, so that's if somebody requests a report of something that's occurred or things like that. That took about 4 hours within the last quarter. Crime lab, 11 hours. Dispatch, you'll see there's quite a range there. That's because, of course, it's kind of hard to measure how long each and every dispatch call lasts. But that's assuming between 2 and 5 minutes on each dispatch call. And that is not inclusive of course, outliers of longer ones, but generally speaking in that 50-hour range. And then records, of course, 23.6 hours. And then analysis as well. We put out daily intelligence briefs to our officers that include intel to our officers. I'm sure that that's received somewhere. And we help on cases, we'll help detectives, we help patrol. We do a couple of other things in there. Those hours are not represented partially because of our school shutdown. So that's what we have to offer you today. Is there any questions that we can answer?
So on your dispatch hours, you say it's kind of difficult to measure. Does that normally just happen through dispatch? When they call in, they're being reported to an area, they go over to the area, and then normally there's a report saying that they're leaving the area and back on normal circulation. Is that how you guys are measuring it, or is there something a little bit more detailed than that?
I think if we did that, the hours would be astronomical.
Yeah.
So I think where she's kind of just giving it a general range of how much actual time talking on the radio, typing in the computer that dispatcher does. And then the most of the other time is the deputy on scene or the other unit that's on scene. And then
That's just the hours of the dispatch center,
Yeah.
not the officer being
Yeah,
dispatched.
so I think if we were to count the entire call
Okay.
that dispatcher
I thought-
had, it would be an astronomical hour.
Yeah. I thought that's where it was, and that's where it was coming from, and I'm like, oh, wow, that is a
No.
mess.
Is there anywhere that you guys are aware of? I've just got an email from Haley about some parking issues. Is there anywhere else you guys can think that we can focus on?
I do. The park and ride is serious. We got to take it serious.
I agree.
And we've got to start moving some of those vehicles out of there. I think we've got an ordinance on here tonight that I think will help with
Perfect.
doing that.
Dealing with
And
commercial
that'll do with
vehicles.
help with the commercial.
Okay.
But there's other personal vehicles up there.
I
I
was
know.
switching to graveyards in January, and that's actually for me, an easier time to find out what vehicles are there overnight and for several periods of time. So I will be personally watching out for that.
There's-
as well.
You've had to have noticed that there's the Ram truck and a travel trailer that has been there since July, hasn't moved. It's been there
That
4
one keeps
months.
getting a permit from the city and puts it in the window. When I talked to the city, they were not aware that the trailer was attached when they were handing out the permit. So they thought they were just giving it to the Ram truck. And so there's kind of been a miscommunication between handing out that permit and what's actually allowed.
Okay,
I found that out this last week when I
Okay.
went and talked with some of the
That's
front
good.
office.
that's good to know. And then there's a yellow box van truck that's been there just about as long.
Okay.
Hasn't moved either.
Okay, I will have my,
So,
have you look into
I mean,
that.
there's just, and I'm
In the
sure
morning.
there's others, but those two stick out.
Okay.
So we just need to really, it's gotten out of hand, especially with the commercial, the semi trucks and the trailers that just get left there constantly. So,
Um. The state law basically says it has to be 7 days before it's considered abandoned. And then we can impound. And so we're following that as we speak. But the problem is people will park there for 2 or 3 days. But I think they need to be cited is where that comes in. So
well, hopefully
hopefully this will help.
This will
commercial
help.
Vehicles especially
Yeah,
because that was
because they-
kind of where we fell into
Yeah.
a gap as well.
Yeah.
So
okay,
I would love to get commercial vehicles out of there, believe
Yeah.
me.
Okay.
But yes, and like I said, I moved to graveyards and I plan on fully
Great.
that's where I sit a lot of the time to watch for crime as well, so. I
okay,
think that'll work out really well.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
Joe, did you have-
Yeah, I just had a quick note. I've had a couple people already tell me that they've got package sharks, people that are following not too far behind the UPS and the electric Amazon truck and
Okay.
just pulling up right behind them. So yeah, if you guys could just keep a lookout for that.
Package pirates, got it.
Do you happen to know how long ago that was? How recent it's been?
I know one happened yesterday and I'd say over the past week. I've had 4 or 5 people that have said they've had a little white car that's been kind of following around. And they've tried to see the car again because it literally is just following some of the UPS trucks or one of those guys. But they say you can just kind of see it hanging around on the corner, not turning until the truck has already left. And so,
Okay.
yeah.
Are you able to disclose an area in which that's occurred?
Really, it's just all over the east side. It hasn't been anybody, I'm sure Wes is dealing with it just as bad, but yeah, most of the people, the last one was one of my neighbors just literally in front of our house was just saying, you know, this is where they've had it. And
If any of them happen to get video on Ring or anything like that of the vehicle, please send them our way. We would love to get video of that and track it down and watch for that as well. So I'll make sure I put out a message to our deputies to watch for that.
I'll have them check because I'm sure they, most everybody has a ring now. So
Right?
I'll check.
That's wonderful information.
Yeah, that is.
Sorry to hear it, but.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's exciting for us when you actually have information about a vehicle, like, because most of the time we don't get that, so. I like that.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, our next item is the annual court review. We have Judge Memmott here. He says that he doesn't need to come up and say anything, but if we have any questions, he's more than happy to answer any questions that we may have.
Yeah, so every few years, the court has to go through certification. It's just essentially an audit where the state can verify that the city, the justice court is following all the different various laws and requirements that are in place to make sure that justice happens in the court system. All that internal audit's been done. The last step is just for the city council to certify the court for an additional few years. Just as a pat on the back, not to myself, but the staff. South Weaver Justice Court has a reputation in Utah and the second district specifically for being one of the best run courts and one where people have some of the most positive experiences. And again, it's not a pat on the back to myself, it's a pat on the back to Lisa to Maria, to the other council or the other staff that's here that, day in and day out, really make sure that people are treated fairly. So I just, thank you for the opportunity to be the judge here. Thank you for such an amazing staff. I'm blessed to work with. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you.
We
Thank you.
appreciate, we
Thank you.
appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. We do have a great staff here. Okay, action items. We need to approve our consent agenda, which consists of November checks, October's budget to actual, 2024 minute schedule or meeting schedule, excuse me, and purchase approval for Will Loader. Is there any discussion on any of these items or any questions that council may have?
I just have one question, comment. Where are we keeping the extra 624 garbage cans? Is it all just in the,
Yeah.
because we just bought like 300
Yeah.
earlier. Okay,
Yeah, they're piled up.
yeah.
They don't put them together.
Oh, so that,
So they stack.
okay. That makes sense. Thank you. I know, yeah. Want to go see
Like, not blow away.
1,000 garbage cans.
We're working on somewhere to put them inside.
There you go.
It is a lot of garbage.
Yeah.
cans.
All right, thank you.
Was there any questions on the loader?
Any questions?
Everybody get those questions answered?
I still have the same question. Why are we buying it?
So it was either, so when, at the new facility, we would either need a loading ramp and to deal with that and all of that, it was cheaper to buy the loader and not have to put all that into the building and the ramps for the salt and sand and everything else to load the dump trucks with just a backhoe, because currently we're doing it with a backhoe. But we have an old makeshift ramp, but to do that with the new facility, it's long-term, it's cheaper to do it with the loader.
And brand new was the best option? Because we're only going to be using this one, if I understand correctly, during winter, during the.
No, it'll be used for a lot of different
Yeah,
things.
we actually have to rent a wheel loader.
So like when they had the pipe break on South Weaver Drive, they had to rent a loader because they just can't haul that much dirt, push it around.
It's a piece of equipment that was identified a number of years ago as a need because it was rented and all of that. And so the why is it's used for all kinds of things. It was identified specifically a benefit for the new facility to reduce the cost overall of the new facility. As far as are there other options? Yes, there are other options that we looked into buying one used. It's not a better option than buying it new for two reasons. One is we get the state contract price when we buy it new. Buying it used, you don't really get a slightly used wheel loader because people purchase them and use them for a long time. So, but with the reduction of price based on the state contract, that 221 is only $16,000 more than the price of a used one that is more than 5 years old with 500 hours on it. So it is a better option to buy a new one and then keep it for a while.
Plus you get the warranty on the new one and you get the maintenance.
Yeah, we don't have maintenance staff. If we had a
With it
used
as
one that
well.
broke down, it would be down and we wouldn't have anybody to take care of that and be a mechanic for it. And so, yeah.
Are there other things like this that are included in the bond for the building?
Only a forklift. So
Oh,
as far as
and
equipment that
equipment
was
for it.
specifically identified, it was a forklift and a
So we
And a
had,
wheel
these
loader.
were part of the bond.
yeah,
So
both
they-
which
From the
were part of
beginning.
the LBA budget and part of the bond
Yeah.
discussion.
So they, like Dave said too, they have been, the Public Works has been wanting one for several years. We keep chopping it from the budget. And this is, when we're building the new facility, we thought, okay, do we want a ramp? Do we not want a ramp? If we don't do that over here, we have to have the loader. They've needed it for other things several times. And it's a couple $1,000s a week to rent one. So it was the prudent choice, I think, but that's.
And it's
thank you.
good, it's good to get it now because they are using the makeshift ramp over here, which we could have issues with and have someone get hurt, which isn't good. And And
But delivery of this is still a ways away.
And no, the delivery, this is what is good is that this one unit Century has coming in is the last one that they're having for this year. And so if we don't get this one, then it is gonna be quite a while before we can. Plus, I'm sure the newer ones are gonna have a higher price tag as well, so I think probably it's time to jump on this. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, any other questions? If not, we'll look for a motion on this.
Mayor, actually,
consent agenda.
one more thing, not a
Okay.
question, but on the 2024 meeting schedule. Originally, we had planned on having a ceremonial oath of office for our two new council members on the 2nd. But we're just gonna combine that with our regularly scheduled meeting on the 9th. So no meeting on the 2nd, just one meeting on the 9th.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Okay, someone like to make a motion?
Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Next item, resolution 23-57, Director of Finance and Treasurer appointment. So for these two positions in the city, it needs recommendation from the mayor and the approval from the council, and so we're asking for our finance director will be Marin Peterson, and our treasurer will be Tia Jensen, and they are both here. So if any, and I think we all know them.
Yes, we
They've
do.
been here and they're doing us a great job, and feel that this will be an addition for our city to continue. So appreciate that. So with that, anyone have any discussion or any questions on this resolution? And if not, we'll look for a motion.
I do still have
Okay.
some statements. I know I talked a lot of this with Dave offline, but I have absolutely no issue with the candidates. I think they will do a fantastic job. So this does not reflect on them. But I do believe that anytime we are starting to do this level of management, there needs to be not necessarily a non-disclosure agreement, but something that will, not non-disclosure, a non-compete that will help us keep these employees here. We're a small city. When we spend this much money, it needs to be an investment that's a little bit more long-term. And I do still have issues with having a large salary position on just a short leash, if you will. So I would rather that be added to the contract. I know that's not up for debate on this. That part doesn't have to come to the city council, but we've seen it used successfully in the past. In the last negotiations that we have done, I just think we ought to be making that a standard for how we do upper management now. So.
Noted, thank you. Any other discussion items? Not, we'll look for a motion on this.
Mayor, I move to approve resolution 23-57, Director of Finance and Treasurer appointments.
Seconded.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We'll begin with a roll call vote from Councilman Dales.
Aye.
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 Okay, unanimous. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Okay, next item, resolution 23-58, appointing two planning commissioners. So Julie Losi has been serving on the planning commission and has asked to stay, and we've discussed that, and we've granted her that she will remain on planning commission, and for a new commissioner to take Jeremy Davis' place, we've got Chris Roberts that we're recommending to the council tonight for their approval. And Chris is here. Would you like to come up, Chris? And these guys are gonna drill you, so. Did Trevor tell you that before he got?
I didn't get warned.
Good job, Trevor. He wanted to come if he didn't know.
He's Cleveland, I guess. I just found out.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm excited. I have not been involved with Supposed to Be Here, so I'm excited to get to know everyone and be a part of this. Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you applying. Anyone have some? I know Haley does. At least two, so. if you-
Yes, you get two tonight because Julie's not here to answer one of them. So, if you had to choose a Disney character to be your therapist,
My therapist?
who would you choose?
Wow. I don't, my first thought is Mickey Mouse, because it's easy, it's happy, it's gonna be not hard. I don't know.
Okay,
That's a good one.
okay. And then if you had a talk show and you could interview anybody you wanted, no exceptions, no constraints, who would you choose?
Alive or dead, anyone?
Anyone. I chose a whale when I got asked this question. So I mean, stars the limits.
Actually, mine has been like Steve Jobs. I've always been interested in him, his creativity and how that works. So that's who
All
mine.
right, Mickey Mouse and Steve Jobs.
See?
Good
Yeah.
combo.
Yeah.
I thought you
Yeah,
were.
the opposite realm.
I thought for
Didn't
sure
say
Haley
Taylor
was lucky
Swift.
man.
Yeah. You need, I'm just gonna be honest with you here. You're gonna need to revisit the Mickey Mouse one though, because I think you're gonna go insane after like a 30-minute session with him.
I'll think
Just
about
my
that.
personal
Next
thought,
time, I'll
but-
think about
Yeah, you do that. I look forward for your answer.
Okay, anybody else?
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
choosing. to
Thanks for
serve.
being willing to serve.
We are excited to have you
that. Thank
on.
you so much. Thank
Thanks, Chris.
It's Jiminy Cricket, by the way. That's who I think would be great.
Jim, oh,
Okay.
you know what? You're not wrong there. Yeah.
Okay,
I chose Mama and his grandma. Just-
somebody would like to make a motion on this resolution.
Mayor, I move to approve resolution 23-58, appointing 2 planning commissioners.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We'll begin with a roll call vote from Councilman Halverson.
Aye.
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 Hey,
Aye.
Okay, like you got the job, Chris.
Yep. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Thanks, Julie.
thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Mayor,
Next.
before you move on,
Okay,
swearing.
Give the
in
oath.
okay, we're gonna swear you in, Chris,
And.
So you have to come up.
because
And Tia.
all of them, yes.
Having been appointed to the office of Director of Finance. Having been appointed to the office of Director of Finance. Do solemnly swear. That I will support. Obey. And defend the Constitution. Of the United States. And the Constitution of the State of Utah. And that I will discharge. The duties of my office. With fidelity.
Okay, next resolution 2359 court recertification. I think we don't know if there's any discussion on this. If there is,
Mayor, I make a motion, we approve resolution 2359 court recertification.
motion in a second. We'll begin with roll call vote. Councilman Beals.
Aye.
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 It's unanimous. Motion carries. Thank you. Next, resolution 2360 Public Works Subdivision Plat, First Amendment. Any discussion on this resolution?
Getting there.
Whoever finds it first, let me know what page it's on.
98.
Thank you.
What page? Oh, no, I just found it. I was just gonna could we get some clarification on the parcel A? I concur with Joel's latest email that I was still confused about what happened there.
Sure, so. We, within the last 3 months, we had an annexation of property from Weber County into Davis County in South Weber. There was a small portion that was South Weber City, small portion that was Linwood. In the planning commission, it was my error, I thought that portion that was South Weber City extended and touched our northern border on our property that we currently own. But that's not the case. It is part of the,
Riverwood.
no, it's part of the other subdivision.
Heather Cove.
Heather Cove.
And so it doesn't border it. And so that was my error to suggest that we include it in the parcel or the plat. And so that's yeah, I caused the problem. If that helps summarize it, because of my brain couldn't remember where that triangle piece extended to. Clearly, I thought it was in a different place. So
Me. Hi.
I'm
Find the problem. I'm sorry. I tried really hard to hold that in.
I should have done that. No, yeah, so Brandon and I had brought it up, I brought it up in the meeting. Brandon wasn't prepared for it. He agreed at that point and then.
Oh.
He's back.
That's,
Well done.
that's Shaylee's best friend.
Oh, I want to hear the story.
That's how you get it done.
He can't give you the story.
Triggered.
No.
So yeah, so the property that's just to the north is actually part of the Riverwood subdivision, and that will be deeded to the city's open space, but not eligible for to include the plat.
Okay, so
Everyone good with that explanation? It's
Yeah.
Trevor's fault.
My bad.
me,
And for those that are watching that didn't understand why there was a cheer, Sasquatch was returned by Sergeant Paul.
you're very happy. Not
We were saying. I can say. You can see.
Clap.
Oh, yeah, thank you for explaining that, Gwen. Everybody probably wondered what's going on. Okay, we'll look for a motion then.
Mayor, I move to approve resolution 23-60, Public Works subdivision plat, First Amendment.
Seconded.
Okay, we got a second. Well, we'll begin with a roll call vote from Councilman Howerson.
Aye.
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 Okay, it's unanimous. Motion carries. Next item, ordinance 2023-09, Title 10, Chapter 7, Conditional Use Amendment. Any questions or concerns or discussion on this ordinance?
Actually, Mr. Mayor, this is quite a big change and an importance to the city. I was wondering if we could get a presentation, just kind of ad hoc, sorry to do this to you, just explaining what it is, what it's for, and some of the work that's gone through on it, if you don't mind.
Okay. Who would like to, Trevor?
Absolutely.
Yep.
And so this Title 10, Chapter 7 is our conditional use permit section. Previously, some of the limitations that we had in our conditional use section was that it didn't list all of the items that are available to us to include as a condition on the property when considering conditional uses. And so by state code, we can only issue conditions that are expressly delineated in our code. So what this comprehensive update is clarifying the process that it goes through and giving a larger, more detailed menu of options for all of the conditions that we could place on a conditional use for a property. So, and that's largely what it is. Our conditional use section also includes a lot of appendixes that were specific conditional uses for such as dog kennels or planned unit developments, PUDs. And as we were looking through those sections, they had more menu of options that were specific to those items, but as we were reviewing those, all of those options were already included in the main text that we had drafted for the code, and so we felt that there was no need to replicate those two items because we had the full menu available to us. Rather, we can create administratively kind of a checklist of if you have administrative use for or a conditional use for an RV park, just for simplicity's sake, not anticipating that happening in the city again. But if there is that one, then we can take lessons learned from previous examples and utilize kind of that menu of items as, you know, these are items to consider when you're doing a conditional use and look at these conditions that are within the code. We just felt that there was extra redundancy and perhaps some conflicts within those, and so we recommend removing the appendixes and in some cases rewriting them and putting them as overlay zones, like the PUD would make more sense as an overlay zone rather than giving it a conditional use right, requiring it to be a legislative decision to place upon a property to get additional density units, things like that. So that's it in a nutshell. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have on that.
Thanks, Trevor. Any questions for Trevor?
Going back to Paul's comment, and Paul and I don't always agree, but I agree with him on that one. So are we, Planning Commission is going to do the full review of all those now?
So Planning Commission will do the full review. The Planning Commission in their recommendation recommended that they be the residential and conditional or residential and commercial. That was the Planning Commission recommendation. But I believe the code is drafted to have the city council be the final authority on commercial uses right now. So you can choose to accept the Planning Commission's recommendation or disregard that.
That's what I wanted everybody to answer that question.
And the way the packet's written is the way the planning commission proposed, or you said it's
So
written?
the code should be drafted as with
City
the
council.
city council, but the planning commission made the recommendation to have the planning commission be the residential and commercial authority. So you can choose to accept that amendment or you can disregard.
My
it.
personal opinion is the city council should be commercial.
I agree.
I agree. I
agree.
also was just wondering, I think I was trying to find it and I thought I highlighted it, but I think the previous code was like commercial over an acre. Is that still a provision in the new one?
So that's in our zones themselves. So like a commercial highway zone that says any commercial development over an acre is considered conditional use, regardless of if it's a permitted use or not. So that triggers that in the actual zone, not in the conditional use language.
So if you're a conditional use commercial that's under an acre, you're still going to come to the council if that's how we, okay. I agree. I think I said that already, but yeah.
My only hesitancy is when you start talking overlays, we've just had so many concerns in the past with overlay being confusing. Is this going to come back to bite us as well?
I think in the past, you can back that down.
So I think this is a reaction to a change in state law that prohibits the city from imposing certain requirements unless those requirements are offered in exchange for increased density. And so the cleanest mechanism for achieving that as a city is an overlay zone. I agree, it's more confusing than having it without. But if you don't do it that way, you're limited in being able to restrict some of those things.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay, look for a motion.
So just to clarify then, this motion, if we approve as is with city council, correct?
No,
No, with planning.
We'll have to.
we have to amend, you have
We'll
to
have to
So
make that amendment.
just clarify in the motion that you do not want to take planning commission's recommendation.
Okay. All right, I move to,
or somebody else got it?
No, you
No,
got
go
Okay.
ahead.
I move to approve ordinance 2023-09, Title 10, Chapter 7, Conditional Uses Amendment with the following amendment to not take the planning commission suggestion to have the commercial conditional use permit go through them, but that still go through city council.
Second,
motion and a second. We'll begin with a roll call vote from Councilman Fields.
Aye.
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 aye,
Great. Okay, motion carries. Next item, ordinance 2023-10, rezoning 0.588 acres from agricultural to residential low moderate for Riverwood subdivision located at approximately 75 West South Weber Drive. Any discussions on this?
I would just like to understand the need that this is for. I mean, I understand switching it over on the zone, but why wasn't this taken care of before?
So this portion of the property is kind of a leftover from, there was a home on the property at one point. And so best we can understand is that there was the agricultural use with that home when the property was all is all combined into the development. It's very typical to have various zoning within the development, and so it just was a leftover remaining parcel. We have quite a few of these actually all over the city. At one point, the city actually said everything extending 100 feet back from South Weaver Drive is all considered agriculture or commercial or residential, whatever that use was at that time. But so there's a lot of split zone properties all over, and so it's just a remainder parcel. So it's just cleaning up, making sure it's all one.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, I move to approve ordinance 2023-10, rezoning of 0.588 acres from agricultural to residential low moderate for Riverwood subdivision.
I second.
We have a second. Begin with a roll call vote from Councilman Halverson.
Aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much. Next item, resolution 23-31, final plat, associate agreement for Riverwood Phase 1 and 2. Any discussions on this resolution from anyone on the council?
At what point are they required to ensure they have enough water?
Secondary
Water, sorry.
water. They are required prior to recreational plat to show that they have the water shares purchased. What I've heard is that there's significant movement in that front, and so they're moving towards that direction. But we would require them to show that proof that they have the shares. An updated letter from South Weber Irrigation Company stating they have the shares and sufficient water, and then we would allow them to record the plat.
Okay, thank you.
There are some minor textual changes, doesn't change it substantially, that the developer has sent over to me. A couple updates of names of the developers. I have those on the printer. I can get those to you, but they're minor, like grammatical changes for clarification, no substantial changes.
So I have a couple questions. On phase 2 then, so if we approve the water agreement as it's written, what can they do on phase 2? Because I've never seen us allow that without the water before. Brandon, is that a question for you?
I can take a stab at it.
Sure.
Well, I think to make sure that we're clear, the agreement would allow them to move forward with constructing the improvements that are serving phase 2, but they would not be able to record
Just
the
streets,
plat.
utilities is what you mean by that? Sewer?
Yes,
all
yes,
that.
right.
Okay.
Streets and utilities, but they would not be able to record the plat.
Which means they can't sell a lot in that area, right?
Correct. Yeah, they until you record plats or yeah, the plats, which actually creates the lots, then you can't sell the lots.
What we found when we were reviewing, because majority of the improvements are required for phase one construction. The road has to be complete and therefore they're putting the infrastructure in the road to do that. That basically it would be ready to record with phase one, even if they didn't have the water shares. And so in order to add that extra layer of protection for future land, or future owners of that land, say, let's just not subdivide it until they have those water shares secured.
So I got a question. Okay. I mean, we heard from the representative of the developers that it can't go forward unless both of them are approved. So if we approve both, but one can't go forward till they get the water shares, are they not going to build or do anything until they get those water shares? Or are they going to build at risk?
The developer is here if they want to answer that question.
Yes, please.
Hi, yeah, thank you for the question. I appreciate that. Brian Bayless with Nielsen Homes. Yeah, we will move forward. We're gonna move forward on the whole project. We have enough water for phase one, so we're able to move forward on that and get that recorded. On the second phase, there's water in this little water district, and we're working on finding the solution to that water as economically as possible. But we want to get going on phase one. We just want to get moving forward on phase one. We wanted to get phases 1 and 2 approved at the same time, as you pointed out, because a lot of the infrastructure's got to be in for both. But we're actively pursuing some solutions right now to figure out how we get those additional 5 shares of South Weaver Irrigation Company water.
6.
6. It's 5. Thanks, Blair. I appreciate the clarification. 6. Rounding up. So yeah, so that's we're actively looking forward to that, but we're not waiting for this community. We've been waiting, I think 3 years plus. And I know the land seller worked with another buyer prior to us. And so we're motivated to get moving. So.
And so if we only approved phase 1, you could still put in the upgrades for phase 2 because you'd be tearing up the road and creating the road anyway.
Yeah.
So why? I mean, other than it'd just be convenient, you would have to come back for phase 2 later. What other benefit is it for us to approve phase 2 right now?
It's a very fair question. There's some certainty in having the approvals taken care of. And that's really, I think, the short answer. For us to move forward and develop that 6 acres for those 12 lots remaining, we would like to have that approval all at once. So knowing that we've got that subject to things that are within our control, where we can go take care of the water, is a huge step in the right direction. We'd prefer not to come back and waste your time. It's not a waste of time, but utilize your time. If we can get these approved right now, that would be our preference, so that we know we're investing in that infrastructure and we know what we've got. We've got those 12 lots. So that's the reason for that.
Thank you.
And the agreement that we have in place, like, expressly prohibits us from moving forward. So it's not like we've just got to get out of jail free card and we can, do whatever we want. We know we've got to get the water. It's a problem that we're committed to. We knew that before we had the city's agreement. The city's proposed the agreement. We have no problems with it because we're intending to resolve those issues. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, stay up there.
Yeah.
Can I ask, are you on the same
please.
subject,
Oh,
just on
yeah,
the
please,
water?
go ahead.
So I guess my question is for Jamie. So I was under the impression the division water rights wouldn't allow us to approve it if that was the case.
I can look into that if you want to move this to a future agenda.
Well, I don't necessarily want to move to a future agenda. I've asked that question enough times, so.
You could.
At every meeting I've been to at the Division of Water Rights, if the water's there, you have secondary. That's why some of the other pieces in South Weaver aren't developed and have been rejected from the city. And I'm not saying I like the subdivision. I've always said that from the beginning. It's the technicalities you can't just overlook, so that's why I'm asking the question. We're getting our hands slapped for doing a couple other things in the city by the state, and I'm not ready to do that same thing.
Why don't we move it to the end of the
You can
agenda
come
and
up with the
I'll-
mic. It's part of your thing too.
Can I just say, isn't the real control at the building permit stage? You don't get a building permit unless you get the water.
I agree with you that I just didn't think that this would stop the subdivision. That's why I was surprised, but, and we've had a long time to acquire these water shares too.
Agreed.
3 years, 4 years,
Agreed.
whatever this has been.
Agreed.
And we've known we've been short for that whole time and now we're gonna approve it without them. At one time, the Ray family had those water shares. At 35.
See, those were in Weber County.
I understand that, but you had acreage for the other side of the hill. I looked it up myself. They were sold. You had 35 shares at one time.
What, if I could, if I may, sorry, I interrupted you.
It's okay.
Councilmember, you have a question?
So I, go ahead with what you were saying, then I'll.
Yeah. It is a common thing for property to be approved as this one is being, without having the water in place. I can give you lots of examples in, West Haven where we've done that, in, Weber County where we've done that, where you don't have a sufficient amount of shares on the table right now, but you have these contingencies in place that protect the city's interests. And it's not a state mandated control issue. I don't know that the state, again, we've done it in the past on several different projects. So I think the key is to make sure that we as the developer can't move forward and build these homes until we have sufficient water that needs to be dedicated. And again, we've done that in lots of instances in other projects. So I think it's to be assumed that we can't get that until we submit those at the building permit, to Lynn's point. So that's one major stop that the city has full control of. To us, this is a belt and suspender solution with this agreement in place, and we're happy to sign it because we have no intention of moving forward with phase 2 without having those water shares in place. But this isn't a state regulated, at least this portion of it isn't, because we've done it in lots of other places. So,
So Blair, and I'll explain kind of the mechanics of this and then help me understand your level of comfort with it. The way I understand the prohibition is that you can't have the subdivision occur without the water rights. And I think the way this agreement reads, and I went through it just a second ago with Brandon to make sure he understood the same way, is that it's not the building permit level, it's the plat level where we would hold this up. So phase 2 would not be subdivided until they present the water rights that the city's demanding.
And that's, I agree with that. So I mean, as long as it's not considered subdivided. then
It
I'm okay
wouldn't,
with
not until the plat's recorded. Yeah.
and it would
So
just
we need to be clear, it's
Yeah.
not the building permit
Right,
level, it's
right.
not the certificate of occupancy
Right.
level where we will hold this up. It's that the plat will not be recorded, that property right will not occur, and that subdivision will not occur for phase 2 until the water rights are in place.
And so that's the city's, I guess.
It
control
means
mechanism.
any of the shared infrastructure that you put in place for phase 2 is done at your risk. Because if we don't get the water rights, then we will not approve the
Recommendation.
plat and the subdivision for phase 2.
But but approval would give Nielsen Homes the assurance that they can record the plat
as soon
as they get the water. So they're not buying at their own risk as well.
And how is that verified?
They'll provide evidence from the district that they've got the
Yeah,
shares.
the irrigation company will have to give them a letter.
Like we
I
have.
guess it says it in.
Right, but will that go through again, the city and our staff, or will that be up with the recorder's office?
It would
No,
be
it's
with our
us.
staff.
It would be
To
with
the
us.
city.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the city has a place on the plat where they sign, and if they don't have the appropriate documentation of which this letter is a part, then they won't
Yeah,
sign it.
so it'll be part of mine and Brandon's review when the plat comes forward for approval. Make sure the water shares are in place.
Will you add that signature on that one that we talked about?
On
For
the plat?
the irrigation company.
On the plat?
Mhm.
Sure.
He said it's there only when needed, and I think that one needed.
So Blair, that's a good point on that one. Maybe whoever makes a motion to approve this, maybe you make a friendly amendment that the agreement on the water shares includes language that the plat must have the irrigation company's signature block.
Good idea. Okay, any other questions?
I do, if you have.
Keep going.
You were going.
Joe.
So on phase one. I think everybody knows my stance on phase one. But I offered up a solution to you once and I didn't see that you took me up on it, but we're using the density from the restricted area to move over into the residential area. But I didn't see, and maybe tell me if I'm wrong, there's nothing on the plat when it gets recorded that will be on the, recorded on the deed or anything for those lots or that piece of property. Those will remain open space. So in the future, when it's not all of you guys sitting here and it's not all of us sitting here, who knows that unless they go read the minutes from one of these meetings, that can then be used again as commercial or recreational or whatever, because that's an open piece of property in South Weaver.
Yeah.
But if you've already used it in a development to move the density to somewhere else, it needs to stay open space. So I would approve phase one if that gets put on the plot.
The note essentially saying, no residential construction.
No construction.
What
Because
about-
you're moving that, you're taking that
Yeah,
development and moving it over to here. So it's open space, so no commercial development on it either.
what about like an outbuilding, like a barn or a garage or?
I don't know, when we do that on the other pieces of property in the city, they say open space on them. Says, that's what they say.
And our hope is, again, the restriction per the sound ordinance or whatever just says no residential construction. And so our hope would be that there would be no residential, I think it says specifically, I haven't looked at the language recently, but I think it says no residential uses. And so I think we'd be fine limiting that from commercial, not allowing commercial, but I think it would be wise to allow at least some kind of an outbuilding. That's why people would own that acreage and want to put something.
I think it'll be zoned, I mean, what would it be? Agricultural or?
Right now.
And you could
it will
put
be zoned
whole
residential.
barns or whatever, but you can't put another, what did you say?
Residential use.
You can't put an
ADU.
an exterior ADU unit that someone's gonna live in, no way.
Yeah,
I mean, we're moving those residential units off of it, adding them to your development. So those things have to stay open.
yeah, and I think it would be prohibited right now. I don't think you could do an ADU because it's a residential use.
Right. So the zoning is currently residential, so the only thing that could go there would be residential, but the easement restriction would eliminate any residential structure, but it wouldn't eliminate like a barn.
And I don't care if there's a barn there. I'm just saying, I don't want someone later on,
Yeah.
whoever owns it,
Yeah,
come to the city, and if we don't have it documented that use has already been moved somewhere else and they present it as a commercial building, who's here? If it's not on the plat, who's gonna know?
the easement, there's an existing easement. So when somebody would go to buy the property, they'd have their title report pulled and that restriction would show up on their title report.
I don't see it on your plat.
It doesn't have to be on the plat.
I think
It has to be stated somewhere.
It's a recorded restriction on the property. Yeah, based on the easement. So that when you pull a title report, it would show up as one of those
I
exceptions.
think what maybe Blair is speaking to is there are instances in other subdivisions where there's a restriction on a lot, and so when that's recorded, it's lot 101R. Correct, and so that signifies to everyone that there's a restriction on the lot.
Yeah.
That could be something that we could do on this where it's a restricted parcel, stating that it's part of the development and the residential uses were redistributed through the property or whatever.
Yeah, something like that would be totally acceptable, Blair, and.
I mean, Nelson Homes is very aware of it. I mean, they did it in the other,
Absolutely.
they did it in the Cook subdivision. It says it right on the
Right
piece of
on the
property, that little triangle piece. They did the same thing there because we didn't want someone coming to us saying, this is a lot and we can build on it.
Yeah,
So something needs to be put on there that it can't be, an outbuilding for a guy buying it for his horses or whatever else, that doesn't mean anything to me. It's more of coming to us later for a piece of commercial property or something.
maybe what I might suggest, if you're okay with this, is to say, easement thus and such, and just call it out, book and page number, right on the plat to say, here are the restrictions associated with that property. Would that get you comfortable? Because those restrictions already exist. It's a recorded easement. that would be the restriction that's kind of currently in place right now, and those would continue forward. We just call that out in the plat.
I think the specific concern is that the easement restrictions do allow commercial uses, and so what we don't want in the future.
I'm not
is to
saying, it can't be
subdivide
the,
that.
it can't be the Hill Air Force Base restriction, because we're actually, in my opinion, moving the residential development rights. They're moving, so we're including that in this development. That whole parcel A and B are in this development. They can't be in part of another future development for a piece of commercial or recreational property.
Right, okay.
I mean, we've never allowed that,
Well, and it's,
and
zoning wouldn't allow that either.
yeah.
Yeah.
But if no one is here saying, well, that was part of Riverwood, if it's not Brandon or Trevor or someone
Right.
else.
Do you want us to try to come up with some language that we could?
Well, I would like that language to come up with tonight, so we don't have to deal with this again.
Right, I'm just wondering, can we just like
So
give us just a minute and come
Sure.
Uh,
back to that, and we
Sure.
can powwow here and
Okay.
and put that language together, and that would just be added to the plat and see if everybody agrees.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay,
Okay.
One thought that I have that might create additional protection on the city is our general plan right now, I believe, identifies those parcels as commercial recreation, right? And so it creates this separation between what it's currently zoned and what the general plan is identifying. And so when we go through the general plan update, by making that residential and not showing it as separate from the rest of that use, that would protect as well for anybody in the future, if they did bring forward some type of proposal to say we want to do something different. The general plan would match with what we're saying, but right now, since it doesn't necessarily.
Can I just ask a follow-up question though? Blair's original suggestion was just to label open space. What do you have against doing that?
Nothing if recreational buildings were permitted. Oftentimes, open space has some definitional components to that. And I don't know what those are. I haven't reviewed South Weaver's ordinances well enough or closely enough to restrict it to that. And so my preference would be that we preclude the commercial uses. Hopefully that can be considered by Brandon and Jamie as they consider this, but.
What do you consider a recreational use? Because I mean, recreational could be something, you know what I mean, like a trampoline park or something, but that's not what we
Right.
envision there.
Yeah, nor do we.
Yeah.
I just outbuildings, that would be, I think, a garage, something along those lines. No ADUs, no commercial uses, no habitable structures. It would be outbuildings. And again, I'm okay, to your, question, Commissioner member. I just don't know what that means in terms of the cities, how it's defined in the city's ordinances.
should we move on with these other two ordinances and come back to this?
Angie, did you have questions?
Yeah, my question would just make Blair upset, but if we,
Oh, do it.
please. So really, if we say we don't really want to approve this development, right, this agreement right now, and we want to ensure that water's done, it's really just to save time for another meeting for you and us. That's
No,
it.
No. There's a lot of assurances that come with that are very, very important to us. That's why we're asking for phase 2.
So what happens if we don't? That's what I would like to know.
We have a hard time moving forward with phase 1, not knowing what we can do in phase 2. We would be going at risk, right? So we're putting our money on the line in developing this community. And if again, to Blair's concern, down the road, if another council member or other council came along and changed that, that would be very detrimental to us. Our expectations and assumption is we're getting 12 lots and we're asking for approval of that tonight. That's critically important for us.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fair enough. Thank you.
Yeah.
Follow-up question though. Lot 141, those 41, 142, 143, right by parcel A. Do you recall off the top of your head how large those are?
I don't, but I could look really quickly.
What page are you on, Ange?
I'm on page 147. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Is this it?
Yeah. It's hard to read, but
There's a sign there. Oh, yeah. That's.
Oh, no, that tells me the size of the pipes. Hold on, I might be on a different map.
pipes.
So 141, 142, and 143, is that the ones you're?
Yeah.
referring to? It is 10,007 square feet 10,007 square feet for lot 141, 10,000 square feet for lot 142, and 9,997 square feet for lot 143. I'm sorry, I just pulled them.
10,000 is what in acres?
10,000 is 0.23 acres.
So how does this work with this open space, with those lots ending, like let's say somebody wanted to put a barn there or something, which owner gets to be the decider of that?
We would sell that likely to one user. And it would likely be the largest lot that's kind of there.
The 140?
Yeah, 140. Yep.
So 140 looks like it's
140.
at least an acre, maybe, I guess I'm guessing, maybe 3/4 of an acre, and then parcel A comes to be like 2 acres, right?
Correct. Yep. I would say the 140 is maybe a little smaller than what you're suggesting, but yeah, right around maybe a little under half acre, I would guess. If 141 is a quarter, just under a quarter, I would guess that 140 is just under a half.
Okay.
It's 0.356 acres.
So that would be the same thing, lot 104 perhaps? would
Correct.
do Parcel B. Okay.
Yep, 104 or 103, either of those.
And if none of those lot purchasers want parcel A or B, then what happens to?
Then we would, so I think our interest or somebody that would come along and be interested in that type of property would, I think, want the aggregate. And if we couldn't find that buyer, we think we've got a few that are interested in moving forward on that. Then we would likely just extend the lot lines from all of the lots that you can see there, 140 through 143, and then 101 through 103, and we would just extend those lot lines directly back to the right of way. So those would just be deeper lots, and then those folks, there would be 1, 2, 3, 4 owners. So there'd be eight different owners that would then have the right to do the property what they wanted. Good question, though, council member. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I guess my question comes down to a few of the statements that I heard earlier. So are you unable to buy water shares for this area, or is it you don't want to pay what they are requesting for?
Neither. We have spent a tremendous amount of money on this project to get it to this point, and we have not been given the approvals that we're needing.
Right,
once
so
we-
back
once we
again to
cross-
what I was saying.
Yeah.
The water shares that started this whole discussion. You're not able to get them right now,
No, that's not what I said.
so you have them right now,
No, we do not have them, but it's not that we cannot get them.
okay?
We have the
So
ability to get
why
them.
haven't you gotten them yet?
I was just trying to explain that.
Okay,
We don't have any approvals.
from,
We don't have the approvals from the city council to move forward on this project.
and that you have to have that to be able to buy the water shares?
No, we have
Then
chosen.
why did you just say it? Please be very specific with me.
I don't know how I'm not being specific. We have invested probably about $200,000 in engineering costs on this project to get here. So spending another several $1,000s on water shares isn't something we're willing to do until we have the approvals from the city.
So it is that you don't want to spend any.
Correct.
Want to spend any more?
Because if there was some interest where we got something significantly less, then we would figure out a way to make that more open space. We may not need those water shares if we weren't given the approvals from the city. There could be tweaks based on the approvals from the city. And that's why we haven't moved forward, because we don't know what those look like until, we've been given concept approval and preliminary approvals, but until we get this approval tonight, then we're willing to move forward and spend that additional money.
So is it fair to say then that's essentially you're not looking to purchase water shares until you know how many lots you're getting?
Right, yeah, because it's subject to that, or it's contingent upon that. There could be changes to the plan that we would make that would reduce the amount of water that we would need to dedicate with the project. And so it could change based on the approvals here tonight. So that's why we haven't been willing to move forward and do that in the past.
Thank you.
Hopefully that helps. I don't mean to be argumentative. but
sorry,
yeah,
with
good.
the, what we have here, it's 6 shares. that
It's
you
6
need.
additional, yeah, it's 5 and some change, but yeah, 6 additional shares is what would be required.
And you know who or where, you have some idea of
Yeah.
who and where you're gonna purchase
Yep.
this from?
Yep, we've got three potential suitors to try to figure all of this stuff out. that we're working with right now. But it's a concern that we all have. I know you're all very concerned about it. We are all likely obviously very concerned about this because we have 12 lots that we would build, we would develop, we would own, and we couldn't build on. So we're very motivated to get this solution figured out.
I agree. I don't have a problem with the water. They can't do anything until they've got the water for phase two. I'm more concerned with the open space. I want to make sure, just like you, Blair, that this can't be used anytime in the future. I mean, if they came in and took the restrictions off, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, this property's already been
Used as a.
And I don't want anybody to be able to come back in when we're all gone and say, I want to develop this, put more houses in here.
We're all
Been
gone.
calculated.
Nelson's all gone and the community members are left. Yeah, I totally agree.
So I think unless we. put
How's that
something
coming
on
along,
plat,
Brandon?
restriction on the plat.
I can see him madly typing.
Should we just go to the next topic then?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Go to the next ordinance. Okay,
we-
we'll come back to this ordinance. So let's go to ordinance 23-18, title 10-19. Accessory dwelling unit amendment.
Wait, where?
These guys may be here a while now. They're gonna have to listen to all this.
Are we skipping item 15?
I was trying to get it done.
Should we?
Yeah, I would definitely skip item 15.
Yeah, we're skipping 15 for a minute. We want to go to 16.
I've got questions on 15. All right. we can
That's the
wait.
one, isn't that the one we're doing?
Let's talk about parking regulations.
Wait, where are we?
Item 15 is title 11 update.
Yeah, title 11, that's
Okay,
gonna be a
let's-
huge one.
It's the subdivision.
That's all the changes to the entire title 11.
Okay, 16.
What's 16?
Is he just, I think the mayor's letting you choose because you're.
Yeah,
Accessory dwelling-
let's jump to 16 while Brandon works furiously on.
16 and 17.
Oh,
okay.
Jamie works furiously. Okay.
Okay, ordinance, we're gonna move to ordinance 2023-18, title 10, chapter 19, accessory dwelling unit amendment. Any discussion on this item?
Yes,
Okay,
No.
I need to find it.
Yeah, Dave, can we get page numbers going forward?
It's 424.
It's a little hard when they're 500 long. I agree, Lisa, you have to go through every single one of them.
I know, poor Lisa.
Multiple times.
Oh, well stated.
Does somebody from the code committee give us a brief summary?
Haley?
Yeah, I mean, I can. Oh,
Actually, I think Trevor should probably still do this.
There's a pretty good summation on 426.
give us a quick overview, Trevor, on
You
accessory
bet.
dwelling unit amendment.
So as part of our moderate income housing plan, we selected that we would look at permitting external accessory dwelling units within the city. So this is to be in compliance with that item that we had selected. The code committee reviewed in depth this proposed code over several months, it felt like, and have the drafted ordinance that we have before you today. Essentially what it's doing is it's amending the entire chapter 19 from being the internal accessory dwelling unit section to being just the accessory dwelling unit section that will detail both internal and external accessory dwelling units. There were minor clarification changes to the internal accessory dwelling unit items within that. I want to remind you that's all dictated by state code of what we can and can't prohibit within internal accessory dwelling units. And so that was largely untouched, but the state is not as explicit on what prohibitions we can place on external accessory dwelling units. And so we have a little bit more latitude on that. In summary, we are allowing external accessory dwelling units, but they have to comply with setback standards. They need to comply with parking standards that are detailed in the code, and they need to comply with the design standards. They will be required separate utility meters for all utilities. That's mostly just to keep it easy for our utility accounts. It's similar to how we had a planned dwelling group section of our code previously, and that's how we had done that for multiple units on the same property, is that they all have their individual meters. And so we followed that. They aren't allowed if the square footage of the lot is under 0.25 acres.
So is that we're allowing an accessory dwelling unit on a 1/4 acre lot with a home and, okay, that's how I was just trying to interpret that.
Yeah, 1/4 acre lot or larger, but they have to comply with all the setback requirements, which is pretty important to, I think that limits the ability to do that. Which is, I mean, we want to allow them sufficiently that people can use that property, right? If we're gonna allow them, right? But we don't want them to be crammed in and become a nuisance in neighborhoods, especially visual or otherwise. So
I guess one question I had as I was going through it, by combining the two, we're still able to identify differences if the legislature keeps coming up with differences of an internal versus external.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought about doing 2 separate chapters, but I just want us to have a simplified code that would help, if I'm gonna do an accessory dwelling unit, this is where I go to all of the things.
How did we come up with 1/4 acre?
Yes, we flipped a coin. No, I think we looked at what some feasible lots would be for this, and anything smaller than a 1/4 acre seems a little bit more difficult to make that work, cause more impacts on other dwellings next to it and things like that.
So on that note, you have in here, excuse me, we have in front of us 60%. It can't be more than 60%. Oh, where did I read that? So what I'm saying is I think 1/4 acre is too small.
Small.
I feel like that's really small to get an exterior ADU in there. Cause we're almost saying, gosh, where was this bullet point on here? You can't have it be more than 60%. But 1/4 acre, if someone has a shed or something like that, and then they're putting an exterior ADU,
They wouldn't qualify.
They wouldn't qualify, and that's
That's what we left it open for, was the opportunity, but if you don't qualify, you don't qualify.
I still feel like it's too small.
so.
I feel like a 1/3 acre minimum, because honestly, 1/4 acre, you're allowing that then to have a separate unit on there. I know it wouldn't be dividing it in half, but you'd essentially be saying, okay, this person has, 0.125, 0.12, whatever that math is. I won't do math in public, but.
It's one.
But you see what I'm saying? I feel like that's totally
Right.
making increasing the density on that lot.
Yeah, one thing that we considered was the size of EADUs, the livable square footage. It can only be 400 square feet to 1,250 square feet. And so that makes it a significantly smaller unit. And so if you're looking at a 1/4 acre, that's around 10,000, 11,000 square feet. A traditional home structure takes up approximately 3,000 to 3,500 square feet of that. Then having an additional 400 square feet or 1,200 square feet in that does make it feasible, depending on lot configuration and where those buildings are found. So that's kind of how we looked at that. We had a graph or an exercise where we had a lot and we put a house and we put and tried to figure out where that unit could go, and so there's some configurations there.
I think there was also kind of a notice of how many quarter acre lots there are within the city. It is seems to be kind of becoming the new norm for quarter acre lots. So there are a lot of homes that would be eliminated from the opportunity that would otherwise comply with setbacks and still hit that 60%.
I think what we'll find too is that as we were looking at the available lots, a lot of the ones that would have the best setback breathing room, basically, to lack of a better term, would be in the older homes that are in town, an older relative, right? Like 80s, 90s, 2000s. The newer homes that are being built are massing on that buildable acreage. They're filling up pretty much their entire building window. And so there's not going to be a lot of ability to do external. And so they would most likely be an internal accessory building candidate. So we wanted to provide the option for some of those quarter acre lots that are still pretty substantially sized, but they would have to meet all those requirements. And we feel like those are good things to weed out.
Okay, well, if I were to write it, this is what I would have done. I would have done minimum of third acre. Minimum of third acre to be able to do it. And I would say that if you have a minimum of an acre, you could do 2 in there.
2?
Yes.
Negative.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Should we take a roll call vote on that?
No.
Okay.
Well, the reason being is What? All right, well, if it's gonna get shut down, it's shut down. I won't even waste our time.
No, you can.
But I do feel like a quarter acre, I'm against that. I would say minimum third acre. That's just me.
I agree.
I don't think quarter acre.
I would just sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
It's too much. It's too dense. It goes against our highest density.
Yeah.
Or it's comparable with it. And if I move into a subdivision on a quarter acre lot and then my neighbor has somebody move in, I'm losing that whatever breathing room I have.
I understand that. The reason, again, like I said, if you think of 1/3, so if you take my street, for example, you guys have all seen my street. I am the only one on a third. That would eliminate everybody on my street from having that, even though a lot of those yards would still be sustainable, which is why we went with the setback. So it's not like here's Quinn's house, here's my house, and here's our two ADUs, EADUs sitting right side by side. It's why we had them fit in those setbacks. So it would be more like a shed, more like Quinn puts a shed in and I put a shed in, but they just happen to have people living there. I was with you on the quarter acre. I was when we first started talking about it. But once you start actually seeing it on the screen, I think it's a lot more doable than what it seems available. I'm just going to throw that out there for your consideration, because for me, it was way too small initially as well. But as Trevor said, there are a lot. And of the ones that we've had interest on are on, quarter acre lots, but their footprint, their home is so much smaller than what we see today on quarter acres, where they have plenty of land, and we would be eliminating them from that opportunity. So just take that for what it's worth.
Another thing to consider on that, to that point, is if we combine our EADU and our ADU code into one, I hear what you're saying. I still don't agree with it. So I still would say third acre. However, if someone's on a quarter acre and they want to have a basement apartment, I feel like they should. So that's where I feel like the two different delineations in the code would be appropriate. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, we have one section that says for both interior and exterior.
An interior ADU doesn't need a minimum lot size, correct?
The minimum lot size is 6,000 square feet, and that's
Quarter
state
acre.
code. So 6,000 square feet, it's actually the line right above the one that's quarter acre. It says all no ADU. It says are smaller than 6,000 square feet for IADUs. So you have to have a minimum of 6,000 square feet for IADUs, and that's dictated by state code on that restriction. But you are only allowed one or the other.
Yeah.
So if you have an IADU already,
Right.
you're not allowed to do an EADU, and if you have an EADU, you can do an IADU.
I'd love to hear anybody else's thoughts on it.
I kind of agree with Haley, and it's restricted by size 400 square feet. You know, the quarter acre is, that's probably as big as they can put on there, which your setbacks, it's governed by your setbacks. So as long as they meet those setbacks, whether it's on a third acre or a quarter acre, there's going to be the same. So somebody with a third acre then can put a larger, more square footage on theirs.
And it is.
But it's still, you know, you've still got your setback.
It is the
to your neighbor.
setbacks like they have for the home, right?
So
Cause
it's
our
setback-
garage and our
Setback. driven,
outbuildings
so-
is a different setback.
Yeah, so the
It's a much
setbacks-
smaller setback.
Right, they're a little bit smaller, but not significantly smaller than the regular. One thing I do want to recommend is, as I'm reviewing this again, we don't have dictated on accessory dwelling units the distance from the main dwelling on the setbacks in that list, and so our code right now is 10 feet for any accessory building from the main structure. So I'd recommend to have that consistent with accessory buildings.
Great.
So I apologize for that oversight. But so it's 25 feet from all front lines. It can't be in front of the building. It has to be behind the main structure. 10 feet minimum on each side, except 20 feet on fronting on a street, and a 10-foot rear setback. So the rear setback is really the one that's the big differentiator, is that we allow it to go 10 feet from the property line. Currently, sheds, they can go 1 foot if they have a firewall, 3 feet if they don't. And so that's a big differentiator, brings that off of the property quite a bit.
The only thing that I was looking at as we were going through this code was the quarter acre lot individuals. I still go back and forth between the property rights. And that one's just, you know, do they have the right to do what they want on their own land? It's a difficult question for me, I'll be honest, being a libertarian.
There it is.
There it is. No. I don't have a problem though with it being a third instead. So if that's what the council wants to do, that's fine. My personal thinking was though, I just don't want to eliminate just on the size of a person's lot, their ability to glean extra income from an ADU. I'm good with it either way. I just, whenever we start dividing, who can and can't do things, sometimes I question whether or not that benefits the landowner, whether they're poor or not. I don't know many people who open their house as a rental unit that do it out of the goodness of their heart. They're there to make some money. But I'm more than willing to go with the 1/3 if that's what the council feels it needs to be.
What do you think, Quinn?
My take is I agree with Angie. It seems like it'd be awfully crowded, but with all the setbacks taken into account, there's probably not that many quarter acres that would apply to. And so in that sense, you may be weeding out all of those that we would think would be crammed in. If that's really the case, then I'm okay with the quarter. I just want the appearance to be acceptable. We don't want to be a community or a neighborhood where you've got all these little growths off of the main dwellings that make it look like we're a shanty town.
I think that was one thing of the code committee that we were trying to, with all of us together, trying to kind of balance property owners' rights with community members' desires, right? Exactly what you guys are saying and what Angie said, like I move into this property and then I have this person right behind me. So that's kind of where a lot of our where we found the middle ground was with the setbacks, with the percentage, with how big you can actually make it, with the type of material that you can utilize it with, from whether it can be 2-story or 1-story, depending on what the main house is. Like, that was really our focus for it, was the opportunity for homeowners to be able to utilize their land and make some extra income, and allow others the opportunity to have affordable housing, actual affordable housing, hopefully, but still keeping in mind the neighbors and the impact it will have on them. So that's what the goal, I would say. And when we created what we came up with, was keeping those two integral pieces in mind.
I think one benefit of allowing them, it's essentially allowing additional density, right? And so by doing so, we can have better design standards. And as part of our conditional use, we can have a conversation about, let's look at the look and feel of that building. Is this substantially similar to the main structure? Is it going to be a disruption for the neighborhood? And they can exhibit conditions on that to make sure, we'll make sure that you have nice siding and nice finishes to the outside, and it doesn't look like a cardboard box that you stuck in the backyard, or a shipping container in the backyard.
Yeah.
That was a
which could happen. We kind of looked at what's worth.
I'm not done. Don't shut me off yet.
Let's move on.
No.
What more is there to be discussed?
Well, I guess here's my thing. I haven't had a chance to weigh on this yet, so sorry, Mayor. I do want to give a little bit of opinion. I didn't mean any disrespect. However, I feel like there's a little inconsistency. Let's say that we have a subdivision that has 8 houses in a line, and they all have quarter acres, and their lots match up or their houses, the size of the houses allow it. So every single one of those people could have an ADU on their exterior ADU. Are we not then going against our own code and all the pressure and stress and deliberation that we have done to keep our lot sizes larger by allowing that?
Not to mention your infrastructure.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. I mean,
we talked about that.
Because I mean, we have had very strong public input that we don't want density in there. So if we do quarter acre, it's very possible with these subdivisions, when everybody picks from, X amount of floor plans, you could have not quite, I mean, you could double your density in significant parts of that subdivision. So that's why I am against a quarter acre.
yeah, that's valid. I mean, as I mentioned before in council, we don't get any impact fees from EADUs or IADUs. So the more friendly we make it, the more we have come in, the more impact we have on our citizens with actually collecting on that impact. So yeah, it's a valid concern.
Okay.
I think it needs to be larger lots. I agree.
Are you good? 1/3? Is that where you're thinking?
Originally, I thought they needed to be a half.
I would say half too, quite frankly. I do think.
But I would be okay with 1/3 so that we can allow more. I think you're gonna, I mean, I don't know that you would see a lot on those quarter acre lots, but I mean, you're already maxing out the infrastructure in that subdivision. That's all quarter acre lots anyway. Would be my opinion. Brandon probably cringes when he thinks there's gonna be 50 of them in each neighborhood, because we haven't figured that for our infrastructure.
Yeah, it does potentially present an issue because we'd have no idea how to plan for it.
Yeah.
But we would just have to adjust, I guess, once we see the actual impact. I mean, yeah, there's no way to really plan for it. It may be minor, but if it really caught fire and there was a whole bunch, then we would need to start taking that into consideration.
So what I'm envisioning right now is a developer, plug your ears, developers are in here. The developer's gonna understand our code and say, I'm gonna make a neighborhood that's gonna be quarter acres, but every single one of them could get an ADU. And that'll increase the potential value of those lots, but it's not. I mean, basically we've doubled our density, and yeah, I'm going larger now.
No, that actually doesn't make sense when you consider our experience with some developers and their advertising for units. And advertising for them to be income generators. That I could very easily see what you're saying to that.
There is a new developer in Utah and Salt Lake counties that is their big thing, is that they make sure you can have an exterior ADU on every property.
See, I'm not married to the quarter acre. I just wanted to help understand why we came up with that number, but
So half acre is what I'm hearing.
Did we discuss? a certain percentage?
We went about to half, all right.
That's a good question.
Um,
Is there a certain percentage? Can you only have
In the
so many
city?
ADUs
So many in the
per?
city?
Well, I think it's important to note that
No.
the state has already dictated that everybody can have an ADU. The question is whether an internal ADU.
Mhm.
We're only allowing one, whether it's
or
internal
the
or
other.
external. So whether that is additional square footage inside the building that somebody expands their current home or their building separate, the idea of additional density, it's already allowed. based on the
Agreed,
state
agreed,
over
but in-
6,000.
But if they go put an addition on it, that's different impact on your neighbors than an exterior home.
From a visual standpoint, from a infrastructure, from a finance, from everything else, it's
Mhm.
identical.
we did talk about half acres in the code committee, and I think we took a quick browse around the city of how many half acres there are. It's minimal.
So maybe that's our better option, simply because the effect that it has on infrastructure, and we can't charge impact fees.
If that's where, I mean, I think the goal was to be able to help offer that as an availability for the homeowner and for adding to our affordable housing plan. So I think going to a half acre, what I'm saying is going to a half acre, you just cut out more than half the city having this opportunity. If that's what the goal of this council is, then there's that. I was under the impression the goal was to meet that.
Well, but they
Affordable
still are
housing.
able to have the exterior, the
Mhm.
interior, I'm sorry,
Yep.
ADU.
Going back to Quinn's point, though, I thought we did discuss in code, having, this limited, whether it was by, an area within a quarter mile that you couldn't have more than a couple of them, or that they would be a certain cap to them. I don't see any of that.
We can't, but
Yeah.
didn't you say we can't limit that because of the state?
So on internal, we can't, internal, we can only
Internal,
limit
you
it to
can, but external. you can.
25% of the city. External, we don't have that same provision. We had talked about doing those in code committee. As we were looking at the setback requirements, the lot size requirements, those things, we felt that provided the buffer to make it so they don't pop up everywhere, but especially if you do a larger lot size, like a half acre or a third of an acre, it would limit it even more to that. And so we can do a percentage of the city. We can cap it at a number. We could, whatever you would like to do, that there's no provisions as of right now to limit that.
I just thought we had discussed that in that. So, yeah. Yeah, so I was surprised that it wasn't included in this.
We had discussed it when we went over the draft. It was my understanding that we felt that the provisions in the lot sizes and the setbacks kind of provided a natural barrier to entry. And so we didn't pursue percentages, but if that's something you want to explore, we can do that as well. There's no hurry to pass this tonight either, if you want to.
Yeah.
I was going to suggest that if we want to add a little bit, now that we've brought it for the council and gotten some feedback, we can definitely go on and revisit this in code committee, and it's fairly done. So it'd just be changing and taking in some of the impressions that you've given us.
I just didn't know if you wanted to get it done while the same faces are dealing with it.
Yeah, I mean, if we are talking about restricting it and a half an acre does that does that. And then we don't have to have another discussion.
And I think even going to a third of an acre, I think it opens it up, but it's still pretty restrictive. There's not that many. I mean, that end of town, there's a lot more bigger lots, and when you're in, it's kind of at the ends that have the bigger lots.
So should we continue it, table it, change it?
Well, can I get a straw, maybe just a straw poll, or 1/3?
I'd be okay to third.
Angie, you're half. Where are you at, Quinn?
5 acres.
Bye.
I like it. Quinn.
There's Blair. Blair gets it down.
I get it.
Just Blair.
I don't know, the more I go back to our general plan. Our
Mhm.
general plan, we are a neighborhood community, a residential community with some, and you know, our whole goal. So I'm probably leaning more to half now.
Okay. How about you?
I'm actually more concerned about it missing the limits, whether that's through the cap of the city or percentage in areas or how I wanted to look at that. But if
So you prefer to just take it back?
I would, just because I think that is a loophole that can definitely be taken advantage of. But I still prefer the quarter if we can control it through caps or something else.
Okay,
Just so
I
that
think
we
we're-
don't have the scenarios like you were talking about.
I think we're far enough off that we might have to, because we're not,
Can you-
we don't even have a majority
Let's
on
do it.
anybody yet. So,
Okay.
Motion to continue.
so moved. No, second.
We don't need a date on that, do we?
Okay, we'll take a roll call vote, starting with Councilman Dills.
Aye.
Aye.
Oh,
That's fine.
Aye.
I was just
Okay.
gonna add to my Trevor, you're short timer, but can you make sure you add in that 10-foot distance between the main building
Absolutely.
also? Thank you.
As you continue, are there very specific items that you want us to include in the next revision like that?
Yeah, that, and then a discussion
Just lot
about
size?
limiting the percentage
The percentage
and lot size.
and the lot size.
Yeah,
I think those three
items.
things.
Okay.
Are we ready to go back to resolution?
Yes.
Is it 14?
14.
14.
Okay,
So here's what we came up with. I'll read it into the record. The representative for the developers reviewed it and is comfortable with the language. What we propose is the plat identifies as the open space areas, parcels A and B is how they're labeled, and we'd propose a note be added to the plat that would be a covenant against parcels A and B. It would read as follows. No subdivision shall be permitted for parcels A or B, period. No development of parcels A or B shall be permitted except for non-occupied residential structures, such as sheds or barns, that do not violate the terms of recorded easements against the property. This covenant is enforceable by South Weaver City. Any development of parcels A or B or modification to this covenant requires a written agreement by all parties with vested interests in parcels A and B. So we believe this gets at the concern about the parcels being subdivided after the open space was used for purposes of these density calculations. And then it also gets at the issue of the commercial and not having commercial uses, and then protects against a structure being erected in the Hill Air Force Base easement area by requiring approval from them and the city before a structure could be constructed in that area.
And that note's going on the plat?
It'll go on the plan.
Thank you for coming up with that.
Yes, agreed. Thank you.
as we
Okay.
dis-
Any- Go ahead.
Sorry, as we discussed this, resolution. If we add in our, what is that called? Motion, with the amendment that the document recording the plat includes a signature from secondary water company certifying the availability of secondary water. Is that sufficient?
Make a motion, Angie.
Okay, you got it, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution 23-31, final plat and associated agreements for Riverwood phases 1 and 2. With the amendment that the document recording the plat includes a signature from the secondary water company certifying the availability of secondary water and the language from our city attorney as read in city council on 12/12/23.
8:02 PM.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We'll begin with a roll call vote from Councilman Halverson.
Aye.
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 Okay. Thank you very much. Motion carries. Do we want to move into ordinance 23 or 2023-17? Adopt City Code Title II, Chapter 3, Impact Fees and
Do we
multiple
want?
section of design and construction standards.
Okay, so I'm just gonna be, oh.
Hello.
Oh, I do have a blanket. I didn't get it. My teeth are chattering. I'm just ridiculous and I recognize that, so nobody needs to do anything for me. I am just gonna be completely honest. I have not yet had the opportunity to go through this with what I feel is the due diligence needed. And I just feel like it's a lot. And I know that you guys have worked really hard on it and have put a lot of work and effort and checked and rechecked and triple checked. But I'm just wondering if there is any suggestions on, I feel like for the council, and I'm speaking for myself here, so maybe nobody else agrees, but I feel like for the council, it's like this whole elephant in like 1 or 2 bites. And it feels, for me, who's not staying, like really scary, like if we don't do our due diligence, but it's hard to read 200 pages and on top of another 300, you know, so I don't know. I'm just gonna throw it out there. Is there a better way to do this?
Let me tell you the process that has happened so far. And that may or may not answer your question, but at least you'll know what the effort that's gone into preparing this. As you all know, there were changes in state law, and those changes mandated that cities adopt more uniform subdivision standards for developments. So there are pretty tight brackets on what we're able to do within that framework. We can only have certain approvals or opportunities to make approvals and to make changes to things that are submitted. We have to rely more on the code that's in place for zoning and other things and look at making sure applications are complete and the like as we do it. All cities have to have this in place by February 1 of next year. So if you were to continue it, there would be at most one other meeting before you would be able to implement it. Our hope in preparing it now was to do it on a time frame that would allow the incoming council members to only have to learn and apply one subdivision ordinance. Same for the incoming planning commission members. And so that's where we were aiming for adoption now and then applicability come the new year. Trevor and Brandon held the pen and drafted the document. I think they did an excellent job with it. There was a lot of thought put into it. They have reviewed it with the code committee and with others in city staff. And then on my end, I reviewed it. And then my law partner, Todd Godfrey, was involved in the crafting of that legislation on the city side. And the cities clearly didn't get everything they wanted on the bill, but he's intimately familiar with it. And he, along with I, reviewed this and then made a few modifications. There's a updated staff report in the materials that conveys the few little tweaks and changes we made to it. But we both felt like it was an excellent ordinance. Well done. It fits with what's in the state code, and we're comfortable with where it stands.
Thank you.
If I could just add to that, I will be transparent on this. I don't think we can say that the code committee had really a review process of this. This kind of came in as here's where we're at so far, and then we got to see the final. I do agree that this is 100% legally sound. I do agree that this is one that meets exactly what the state has asked us to do. I do not know, and it makes me a little insecure on it, all the details on it and when all was changed. And that's, I know it was a decision that was made, and I think it was the right decision to just start at scratch and to rebuild it all in there using the current code as a basis for what gets put in on the legal side. There's a lot of things that as I've been going through and reading this, that I see that are missing, but none of them are legal issues. They're more in line with what our original code had on it and in it from the years of people working on it to where it is now. And I agree with Haley on this, and I've actually asked many times that regardless of the timing of a bill, that we do not get a novel for us to go through. Because I think I probably have more available time than most, and I don't have enough time to be able to go through this entire thing and compare it to what we had before and make sure that everything is covered in it. I agree, I would have liked to have seen this cut into sections instead of one giant release. But I know that there's issues in doing that. And Trevor, I'm not knocking on this. I've said it before, this was really one of the best jobs I've seen. But I'm just telling, I work in code committee. I have reviewed this multiple times. I have got red and yellow and blue and green copies of this up on the small PDF that I have gone through so many times. And I'm not 100% comfortable in everything that it is and does. So take that as, I don't know. What I'm just saying I'm insecure in it, so.
Well, I mean, if it has to be submitted by February, I mean, this is our second meeting with it. I still have my same issues with it. I don't like the fact that the planning commission doesn't have to hold a public hearing on preliminary plats. I don't like the fact that the city council's been removed from approving the final plats. So if that's a law and we can't change that, personally, I'd rather put it in there and be told different personally. But if no one agrees with that, then I think the committee needs to be formed and two elected officials need to be on that. Not everybody needs to be appointed or staff. They're not the ones that get the emails and the grief from it. So, and no offense to planning commission, they do a great job. I just don't think that final plat should be solely laid on them. Those are my main issues with this. Otherwise
it's good.
Otherwise it's good.
Now, one of the things that when we did that, it is
There's several places in there, sorry.
No, please.
There's several places in there where it says approval from the planning commission shall complete this process. Approval from the planning commission shall complete this process. The planning commission does not meet often enough to do this. No way, shape, or form. Especially if we developed like we developed in the last 5 years. There's no way they can do that.
And other cities have come to that same conclusion.
Agreed. So it either needs to be a committee that commits more time, or it still needs to fall back to those final approvals to the city council. And personally, I don't care if we put them in there. Let them tell us differently.
Well, yeah.
Well, let them. I mean, I don't.
But we at least get it submitted before February.
I do want to clarify, they have already told us that the city council shall not be the final.
In their law, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
This guy, right? Such a rebel.
It wasn't like we didn't understand that, Trevor.
So one question I have, we reviewed this previously. Were there any changes since the last time we reviewed it?
The edits from, with that additional addendum that we sent from Jamie, those were the changes that Jamie.
That was it. Okay.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
the
you know-
wording that you had asked.
Yeah.
And when the general thrust of those changes is the city's only way to keep an application from moving forward if it's incomplete or incorrect is to flag it as incomplete and flag it as incorrect and give it back to the developer. And so I added things that make clearer demarcation of when that particular phase or stage is complete and what's required in the application for it to be complete and the purpose for putting that in. And I think some of that may be the language ironically that Blair finds objectionable. So we ought to look at it and talk about it. But the reason it's there is to send a clear signal of this is the decision that's the end of this process, or these are the things that have to be submitted before we'll consider something complete and then move it along. Because once it's complete, we're held to really tight timeframes and we're limited. We can't go back and do a re-review of that stage. And we can't ask for changes that weren't noted or flagged in our initial review. So as it proceeds along down the line, the scope of what we can push back on gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So we just wanted to be clear of where those markers are.
And just to fit within a time frame, so a shot clock goes off when a full application is submitted. Right, we have 15 days to complete that review. Part of the first preliminary review will be a requirement by city staff to get a preliminary approval from planning commission. They cannot proceed into the next review cycle until all of the comments are obtained and satisfied. And so we want to be very clear, just like Jamie said, of that's always going to be a requirement is the planning commission has to approve the preliminary plat in order to move to the final stage. And so that's why it doesn't slow down the process because it's a item that has to be corrected prior to moving down the line.
So can I just use the Riverwood subdivision, for example? So that would have, to this point, would have never even hit city council's desk, right?
For the rezone, we would.
Well, it had a rezone on it, but as far as the plats, the density, none of that hits city council.
Correct.
And most of the time, we won't approve a rezone unless they have it to that point. So
we request that.
So that's what I'm saying. So does that mean we make it so that we get that when they request a rezone so that we can review it and have input on that?
That's a lot of money for a rezone.
That is a lot of money for a rezone request. I mean, the big ones, we've been asking for it anyway.
They have to have a rezone before they can start the process.
I know, but can we justify asking for all that information on what they're going to do with that development? Like we have been on the large ones. Riverwood being an example. You know, the Stevens property where General RV is going, we had several things requested there. Is this tying our hands that we can't ask for that?
For a rezone?
No, to bring that
they're
to us
submitting
with
their
the rezone.
Yeah, when they're asking for a rezone, you're requesting that they bring the entire subdivision to you.
Well, yeah, because that's what we've been asking for the last little while in order to rezone the Paul property, all of these.
Right, but that's your question.
Mhm.
Okay. That's a
Because when
Jamie
we-
answer.
I mean, I think you can, but you would have to do those rezones pursuant to a development agreement conditioned on that site plan. You know, just remember that Title 11 is only for subdivision applications. And so it's only for those applications where somebody's seeking to develop within the existing
zone.
zone. Yeah. And if they wanted to change the zone and the city council's ask to know whether it wanted to change the zone or not would be to review the specific development, you can do that.
And that's what we've been doing. Whether that stays the trend or not, that's up to the next city council.
Well, and again, that goes back to the general plan,
Yeah.
Yeah,
because
right.
that's what we use for a lot of it.
But if
is-
you want to just rezone them back to the general plan, we haven't even been doing that unless they come in and show us what they're going to put there. And then we've made the condition that with the reverter clause in those.
But
on every
short
time.
answer, you remain the legislative body and zoning land use decisions, what the zoning ordinance is, remains a legislative decision. And you can make that based on policy considerations, practical considerations, whatever you think is useful to you to make that choice.
Could we require a sketch plan or a concept plan?
But we could require the whole development plan.
Yeah, if it's paired with a rezone, you have more latitude.
But if it,
Then
let's
you
say it's 10 acres that's already zoned RM,
And we have no control.
it will never even come to us.
Right.
That's correct.
Yeah, so if somebody wants to
And
rezone
that's
it as a
requirement of
daycare,
The statute.
But
And that's-
just out of curiosity, Blair, if it came to us, what would we do? I mean, we don't have any legislative authority to change anything.
As long as they meet that zone.
So like
Again-
tonight with Riverwood,
This is no offense to Jeremy. Cause he's sitting in this room and planning commission, I think the planning commission has missed a bunch.
No.
I mean, I truly do. There was none of this stuff with Riverwood was even brought up.
but Riverwood would have still, that was a development agreement that we signed tonight, right? No? Oh, just kidding.
No.
Okay, never mind. Point taken.
I think to Blair's point, I mean, planning commission, they don't meet enough to have, it's hard. I mean, there's a huge learning curve and they don't meet enough to go, oh, this really, oh, okay, this one maybe doesn't fit, maybe not. I don't know. I see Blair's point. Does this rewrite here in 110104 where it says city council reserves the right to change the members of the appointed board at its discretion? Does that satisfy what you're saying?
But I thought we decided it was an appointed board last time.
The appointed board
it's supposed
consisting of city manager and or city planner, public works director, city engineer, and others is assigned or responsible for reviewing applications and land decisions arising from subdivision applications.
That language is added because you wanted the ability for the city council to appoint a member to that.
So that was added.
Correct.
Okay. Well, it's been hard to pick out every little thing added in here, sorry.
You okay with
I'm
that?
okay with that.
Okay, I have something. Let me get my notes. On page 211, talks about buffer yard in the code, and so it references code 10-15-14. So my question is, the code says intent for buffer yard landscaping, the intent of these requirements is to increase the compatibility of adjacent land uses and foster compatibility among different land uses. So it doesn't specifically say which zoning it applies to. So
Right, the zone itself dictates what needs a buffer yard. So if somebody comes in with a commercial recreation zone, that dictates the need for the buffer yard, or they come in with a commercial zone or whatever, but if there's no buffer yard required in the zone, then that provision wouldn't apply.
okay, so we don't need to change anything in the code. Hold on, which section are we doing this? Title 11? Title 10. Okay, so I just want to make sure that it's clear, because when I pull that up and I go, oh, it says it references this section of code. And then I pull up the code and it says nothing. We are covered somewhere else in the code, is what you're saying.
I believe 10, 15, 14 landscape.
Buffer yard landscape.
It is buffer yard landscaping. Do you guys understand what I'm trying to say here? It doesn't specify, it just says compatibility of adjacent land uses. It doesn't say specific to where, like which zoning it is in buffer yard landscaping. So my question is, can someone come to us and say, oh yeah, you have buffer yard landscaping, that's great. I think my use is compatible, or how do we specifically define that?
So like I said, in commercial recreation, it'll say any zone, any commercial recreation zone that butts up against a residential zone is required a 20-foot buffer yard as required in 10-15-14. And so that's where the compatibility of uses will come in, is in the specific zone, it has the requirements of whether or not they need a buffer yard versus the other zones that are adjacent to it.
Okay. Okay, as long as it is in there. Cause I keep trying to pull up city code and I can't, I just have the one screenshot that I took.
And I think you see what I was talking about is that this, while I agree, it is 100% legally sound. And I think Jamie did a lot of great work on going through it afterwards and really making sure that it was sound. I just feel like with the size of the packet, it's more, we're hoping that it's all been checked, double checked, and meets all of the code. And I don't know if you have the red line copies that maybe we could go through and see on it or any of those kind of things, but it's just really difficult when you have an entire section that's that large and is that critical to the city, to be able to look and see where things are at and what were changed and what wasn't.
Can I ask what you would propose as the route forward?
Well, first, I do believe that when this kind of code should come over, really the first thing that should be brought to the council for a discussion is an outline of what the entire code's going to have. And that I think you've done verbally, but being able to put it down, showing this is where it is and this is what we're going to be doing and this is where everything is linking is a great start. But once we start hitting each one of those sections should be broken off, or maybe a group of 5 or 10, just depending, so that it's not more than a page or two that just says, okay, here's where it is. Here's where it locks into. The law hasn't been changed. And I know that's a lot of extra work. But I think that all it's really doing is just breaking it down into smaller segments so it can be digested. I'm Southern. So it just makes it easier for consumption so that we can go through and try to understand what's going on. Because like I said, it's just, to me, I feel like I'm just looking at this and hoping that it's all correct. And that's not the way I like to vote.
And I think that's fair. I guess I'm just wondering, like, if it feels like you're not feeling very comfortable about moving forward tonight, which is fine. Would you propose then that, I mean, I don't imagine you're wanting to bring this back to city council and do all that work. So I'm just assuming you're thinking maybe code committee and go through that way. Help me understand how we get to the point where you feel like you've gone through it.
If I were to say, I would think that we go through tonight with the legally sound version of it. But as I mentioned in code committee just before this, I think the number one priority from here on is going through and digging through, seeing what is missing, what was changed, what was altered, and what is still safe and secure. And that's only because we're also losing Trevor at the same time. I think he would be a good resource to have throughout this, but we're going to be losing him. And so I think the code is good and correct. I just really worry about what we missed. And that would have to be the first thing that code committee would take. So
I'm so torn because we need to submit this and there's been a lot of work done, but also this has been a bear to look at. And I legitimately can't see where you're talking about, Trevor. I'm looking at the code up on my phone now, and this is not linking. It's not syncing in like to what we should be approving versus what our code says.
For the buffer yards?
Yes. Help me find it.
While Trevor looks at that, a suggestion on my part. If you haven't had time to review it or haven't reviewed it, and you have a month before you have to adopt this. It doesn't have to happen before the end of the year. That was a self-imposed deadline on our part to try to make it convenient for the incoming city council and planning commission members. I would recommend you take time over the next month, however we need to do it. We make ourselves available to sit down and go through things with you and make sure you're comfortable with it. But the state statutory changes push more of the review process at a staff and planning commission level and remove decision-making from the city council level. So this is your opportunity to make decisions about how you want this to look and behave. And if you're not comfortable in how you adopt it, then I'm really uncomfortable with staff having to make decisions and approvals based on what you adopted in that way. I'd recommend you take another month, take it up again at your January meeting and go through it and approve it at that point in time and be comfortable with what you're approving, then have us have to make reviews and decisions based on something you don't seem to understand yet.
And Jamie, that said, am I on?
You're on.
I'm on. But you're gonna have two people that aren't gonna have the last 2.5, 3 months to review this. And I'm not, I mean.
Actually, Jeremy has been part of the code committee, so he's had just as much experience as anybody would have on it.
Would you agree, Jeremy? Okay.
And Wayne has been reading it from my understanding. Just an FYI out there.
Wayne doesn't have anything else to do, so.
I think terrible.
I'm sure he's listening.
So
He'll just
just
send you a text.
quickly, Angie, 10-55H-12 for landscaping requirements. This is in the commercial highway zone. You see item B, buffer yard landscaping. The buffer yard shall be required between the CH zone and all residential zones and shall meet the requirements of chapter 15 of this title. That would reference to chapter 15. That would have buffer zone requirements for that area.
Okay, so then when we have in this new code that we're approving, it doesn't say that. Excuse me, it's not referencing that specific one. So you're looking at which section?
10,
10 what?
15 now, but he wasn't.
Yeah, it's a 10-5H was the commercial highway zone.
Okay, so when we have 11-704 in our packet on page 211, should I say more numbers right now? It says buffer yard as required by Title 10, 15, 14.
Right.
So it's referencing, just help me understand because I'm.
So in 10, 15, 14, it talks about, and then it should reference. Scroll up for me, Lisa. Ooh, too far. Intent of this requirement is to decrease the compatibility of adjacent land uses and foster compatibility between different land uses by minimizing the harmful effects of the noise, blah, blah, blah.
It has like the diagram of what it is.
So this is only talking about the fence required as of 10, 15, 14. So this is just talking about it requires an 8 foot tall
Fencing for.
fence or between the uses for the buffer yard. So this is just talking about fencing. It's not
Okay.
talking about, so it's required as required by this code on the fence
Just
height.
specifically for fence as it pertains to fences.
Right, yeah.
Correct.
11-704 is fencing. And then under 2, you've got A, B, C, D, and E. Those all talk about the situations where a fence is required.
I see that. I'm not sure why we're all laughing, if it's the same reason or not. I just want to make sure, like,
Sigh of like defeat, like.
no, I want to make sure that it's right. So if it's just, if it's correct, that's all I want to make sure.
Because on the plat.
You're
we
saying
have
it
to-
as it pertains specifically to fencing
Correct.
in section 10, 15, 14.
Correct. Because when we're talking about subdivisions, when they have to delineate what the fence is on the plat, we wanted to make sure that it meets the requirement. So it's that 8 foot tall masonry fence that's required in our.
Okay,
So
so 10, 10-5, but it only is for commercial highway.
It's for commercial highway, commercial recreation.
every commercial
industrial,
and I.
There's a
Okay.
lot of. ones,
Done.
and
Thank
they're
you.
all delineated in zone.
Thanks, guys.
I think it's 221, Lisa, that we were on. 221.
We're back in the red.
Okay, what are we gonna do? Want to postpone this?
Blair doesn't want to.
Well, I don't see that we're gonna make many changes.
I don't either.
Postponing.
I don't either. I think we
So-
should pass it.
I would just recommend that someone from city council be on that board.
And make a motion.
I agree.
Yeah, make a motion, Blair.
Wow.
So Joel, were you recommending we
Wasn't there
approve
other
it and
changes?
then review it?
That was mine, is
Right.
that, because like I said, it is legally sound, it has gone through. So, yeah, I
We
think,
don't, but we don't have to, I mean, go ahead.
no, I was just saying, so I agree with you that it just then falls upon the code committee to go through and just make sure all the links go to the right link so that we're all confident in what we did. And if not, then that can be brought up. Because yeah, it's legally sound, it needs to be done, for state law, which is bogus. One quick question, are you talking one member of city council or two members of city council on that?
I was saying too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you say two because Andy held up two fingers?
No,
I would
Yeah.
agree
He
with,
said two.
I would agree with Angie.
Yeah.
Because there is a timeline.
But they don't, I mean, if one of them can't be there, it's not the end of, I mean.
That's
they
true.
just
You
aren't
don't
there.
have,
I mean, not everybody shows to every committee meeting,
Yeah.
everybody shows to every.
Yeah, why don't you have it be two members of the city council as available on the review and
Right.
as assigned by the mayor?
Yeah.
and it doesn't have to have a quorum.
It shouldn't.
Can't,
Okay.
you can't have a
Okay.
quorum, or you have to have an open meeting and do it that way. You don't want to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, you're gonna ask me that question?
So add that.
Do you remember the name of the board, Trevor?
The board, I think it's administrative land.
It is Administrative Land Use Authority Board.
Real quick, I think there's also a line that
It is.
describes city planner, or it's actually calling almost to a very specific job title that says this is for the community service director.
Oh, if that's in there, we do need to update that.
Yeah,
I
if you-
tried to change all of them to city planner, so it was very clear that it was just designated city.
I think it was under the definitions on the last one that I saw where it showed that the city planner was currently the community services director. So that's a very specific.
Yeah, that's,
Thank you.
Was it under fencing?
yes.
No,
11
we're not on fencing, we're on buffer.
15, 14. Fences are important.
30 minutes worth of importance.
Was it really 30 minutes? I'm so sorry, you guys. It wasn't just my conversation.
Hey, Blair, let's take a stab at
Is
it.
there any other, are there any other changes we need besides that?
Well, if I know.
Re-listen on that one.
The definitions,
Yeah.
About the change on the definition.
but where was that?
Just remove all
It-
community.
The motion, Blair, could just be to update
Change
any
the-
reference to city titles to reflect the new organizational changes.
Okay.
That's a good one. Way to go, Jamie. He is
good.
good.
He's so much better than Chad.
I'll give this an attempt.
Chuggy.
And I don't need to read the whole thing, right? So I move to approve ordinance 2023-17. Adopt city code title chapter 2, chapter 3, impact fees. Is that enough of that? Okay. With the following amendments, to add 2 city council members as available to the Administrative Land Use Authority Board
As appointed by the mayor.
as appointed by the mayor. And to change any references to titles to the current titles and job positions as currently organized in the city.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. We'll begin with the roll call vote from Councilman Halverson.
Aye.
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 Motion carries.
You want to keep going?
Yeah, we've only got a couple now.
I don't even know where we're at.
Okay, ordinance 23-19, Title 6, Chapter 1, Section 4, Parking Regulation Amendment. Everybody good with those changes on that?
Hold
So
on.
we can start enforcing our park and ride?
I think it's a great thing.
Yep, I don't have any questions.
Okay, then let's have a motion.
I think I have something highlighted. Just give me a
did?
second. I don't know.
I already
Okay.
sent mine to her, just so you know.
Oh, you did? I'm not that organized.
No, I don't.
I already sent yours.
Nothing?
No.
Mayor, I
Make
move,
sure.
I move to approve ordinance 2023-19, Title 6, Chapter 1, Section 4, Parking Regulations Amendment.
Second that.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call vote with Councilman Fields.
Aye.
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 It was me.
That was my fault. Sorry, Michelle.
Okay, we've got a discussion item on the moderate income housing, single room occupancy choice. You want to discuss that or do you want to move
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, this one needs a discussion.
Okay, let's,
Okay, so Trevor, you're giving us back, so what the planning commission originally
Yeah,
recommended.
I just put that as reference material, that if you wanted to talk it, we don't have to select tonight. By the way, we don't have to select something different. That was just for your recollection of what had previously we've been talking about. This is mainly, we've got to send a response into the state on our non-compliance letter. And as I was looking at this provision of single room occupancies, it just didn't seem like it fit with the desires of the council, based off some concerns that we've had about rentals within the city, specifically renting single rooms. And so I wanted to make sure this was something we still wanted to pursue. If not, then I would let the state know that we've reviewed it and we want to pursue updating the code to or updating our moderate income housing selection to have something that's a better fit. But that's totally up to you all. And I just wanted to have some feedback before I responded to the state.
So with F, is us giving bonus density for the overlay? Does that count?
It could, especially if we do the PUD overlay, right? We could modify that to help fit that concept as well.
That's what I say we go for. This whole thing just annoys me so badly.
Mm-hmm.
That's something we've already done and approved, and will they look at our numbers and tell us we're ridiculous?
No, the reporting structure is merely reporting on our actions that have taken place. Eventually, I mean, we have to do some reporting of what the numbers are, but as I look at them, I don't think they're going to be ever any significance in cities our size anywhere. I mean, it's checking a box, honestly, in my mind with the state. It's just making sure that we're trying to comply with what they're wanting to do. The state is wanting to be aggressive on moderate. housing.
of course they
Yeah.
Sorry, they haven't, anyway.
Last one, go.
I'm just saying, we've already done F, so if the single room occupancy is kind of causing some issues and we think what we've already done will apply for F, let's go for F.
We selected F because we said we'd already, we're doing that.
I thought we selected B, E, and I.
I thought we did. All right, hold on, scrolling.
It's on page
445.
445. Am I right? Is it B, B, and I?
Yes.
E, I. And we just have to have three, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so we would just switch out I for F. Which I swear I remember saying this. the
I
night
thought
that
we did
that,
too. I really did.
'cause I was
That's what
off.
I would say we do. This whole thing stinks.
We had originally presented F and then it was flipped for I.
I remember there was some things with F and I
Yeah.
do remember that.
Yes.
We said F and I. We said F and I remember that. Yeah.
Sometimes
Just
I
bring out
remember
the
things.
appropriateness and we can remember things.
Okay, well, let's go back to F.
All right, back to F.
Okay,
F
so
is
I'll,
in.
I'll put in that we're gonna modify our
is.
plan and that's
Thank you.
something we'll
Hey.
work on next year.
That was easier than I thought.
Great, okay. Anyone have any new business to report, or do you want to discuss your committees tonight? What's going on, or are we good?
I would like to say something.
Okay,
Is that okay, or
It
do you
is.
want to go?
no, I don't.
Okay, good. Okay, I would just be remiss if I didn't. Dang it. If I didn't say thank you to everybody. I feel like the past 4 years have been such a massively profound growing experiment for me. I have learned so many things. I am a better person because of it. And I was thinking about what I wanted to accomplish when I first got into office. And I was kind of writing them down, and I actually have like my notebook from back when I sat in the audience and would take notes of the things that I wanted to get done in my 4 years. And I'd always hoped to go for 4 more, but I guess life just changes on you. But I was able to accomplish all of them. And I don't say that to pat myself on the back. I say that to pat you guys all on the back because I'm just one of many. But in order to make the amount of changes that we did and the things that we were able to accomplish over the years, I just simply couldn't have done it just as one person. And I just want to thank everybody here for their support, and it's been my honor serving with you and serving for our citizens and working. We have such a fantastic staff. And it was really hard to give up my seat until I saw who was going to be running. And then I knew that we're going to be in great hands. I've seen Jeremy, he's hiding behind a Christmas tree, but being able to work with him in code over the last year has been such an enlightening experience. And I know that we're leaving it in safe hands with him, and to have Wayne come back just was a sigh of relief for me. But I just wanted to thank everyone for all that they have done, and all that we've been able to accomplish. And it has been my honor serving with all of you. So thank you very much. You'll be missed in my heart. And I know every time you guys introduce a new employee, you're going to think of me and my questions. So somebody's got to keep that going for them. So,
We'll
thank you.
text you.
I'll have a running one just going for you.
Thank you, Haley.
No,
We appreciate you very much.
thank you.
You've been super, both of you have. Both gonna be missed. Both gonna be missed immensely. I know, so.
Thank you.
Huh?
Do you want me to say something now or wait till the reports?
Do it now.
We're not gonna have reports.
Oh, no reports.
We're gonna turn time to you.
Well, I just echo what Haley says. This is just an amazing city, and I didn't have any understanding of all the stuff that went on behind the scenes. We've got a great staff, we've got a great community, and all the people in our community, you know, there's a lot of passionate people who care. And sometimes we disagree, sometimes we have different opinions, but I appreciate everybody who has come forward and shared their thoughts and their ideas and been willing to be involved. I mean, it's an amazing place to serve, and I agree with Haley. I didn't know what it would be like, but just enjoyed the ride. When I first got in, there were people that were there to help me try to figure out what in the world to do and where to find the answers and then got more educated and comfortable with it and started feeling like I was contributing more than just being a fly on the wall with this great organization and great city. But yeah, I do appreciate everybody. It's been nice to have laughs and serious conversations and everything with everybody up here and all the ones that we've worked with over the years. So I will miss it as well. I won't miss chasing the dust down every week, but
That's still your job.
yeah. I'm gonna try to get that.
That's just community volunteer service.
Yeah, but thank you, everybody, very
Yeah.
much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Clay.
Dave, do you have anything?
I know both of you just expressed gratitude to staff, but I would be remiss if I did not express gratitude on behalf of staff for the two of you. There's always apprehension on the part of paid employees when bosses change. And two of you are incredible. You've been excellent city council members from my perspective on many, many levels. And you both brought unique backgrounds, unique experiences and perspectives and leveraged those for the benefit of the residents of this city. And on behalf of all of staff who doesn't get the opportunity to work with you as directly as I do, thank you. You have been marvelous city council members.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave. I think with that, I'm gonna ask for a motion to adjourn.
There's a breakfast with Santa on Saturday.
Oh, is that why you've been hanging around here?
Well, that and the
Okay.
code that with parking, but he asked for a story on Mr. Sasquatch, so I think it's
Okay.
appropriate to give it. He was not stolen. A concerned citizen actually found him in the middle of the road and thought they would rescue him and held on to him for safekeeping.
Oh.
There was nothing nefarious about it, so.
Okay, well, that's good.
Dang it. Dang it. Breakfast.
Okay, before I make
Breakfast
a
with Santa.
motion, breakfast with Santa, Saturday, 9 a.m. What time do you want us
What
there?
time do you want us
8:30.
there? And where am I setting up?
You're
the
setting
grill?
up in the back.
Like where we did trunk or treat?
Mhm.
Southwest corner of the back.
Yeah,
Where we
Okay.
did.
where we did the
Up
trunk or
on the
treat.
sidewalk.
8:30 for the council to be there and all the
I
help
think
and
we should
staff.
be there
Oh,
at 8.
way more.
Yeah,
We gotta be there
I'll
at 8.
I'll be there, Dave.
I'm there at 8.
8. Okay, Shaylee says okay.
We're gonna be there at 8.
Okay.
Okay, so
Can we get
council there at 8. Breakfast starts at 9.
Okay.
Okay,
Anything else?
Mayor, I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I second.
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Who put that ugly thing up there?
The Utah State Legislature.
Yeah.
No, they didn't. Same with that, just like that other rule. You don't have to fly it.
Still recording.
Oh,
They need to.
I'm okay with that.
I thought it was interesting that it was required with the court recertification.